We'll have a discussion at our meeting. Take that off. Got it. And I'm putting back the thing. And we're all set. We can, I'll start it, but y'all can start letting people in. Because every time I click this, for me, the what you call it? The share screen keeps coming off. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start promptly at 9:30.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Andrea, Gladys, Tamara. We're going to ask Monica, that's you, Monica Majors. Oh shit, I don't see a microphone, so I guess you can't speak yet. We're gonna ask everybody to, Andrea, could you just put D75 in front of your name while we wait?
I'm putting it right now as we speak.
Awesome, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Monica Majors?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna rename you. So Randy, you could do that, right?
Mother saying she's gonna be up here.
Good morning, Jazzy.
Good morning.
Good morning, Francis.
Francis, put your district in front of your name.
I think she's doing that. Really did.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
It is 9:30. Good morning. Thank you for those who are here punctual. We're gonna get the ball rolling. Good morning to everyone. And I know people will, by the time we get to the main agenda, to the minutes, more people will be coming in. So it's our August meeting. We're still in the summer. Hope you're enjoying your summer. Hoping you're having a happy summer. And it's been hot. We got some cool down today. But for those who don't know, it's Thursday. It's August 11th. And this is the monthly meeting of the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. This is our current board members. And this is Cpac meeting procedures and standing rules. It is on the website. All the current members should have it. We're gonna go by forego the reading of the meeting procedures. We're just gonna go straight to summary. We wanna make sure that our speakers start on time, leave on time. They ask to be, try to be very punctual as possible. So in summary of our meeting is just to respect each other, right? We're gonna respect, be courteous and professional with each other and our guests. We are going to be respectful in the chat as well. We're gonna try to be present, no side conversations in the chat. We gotta remember that we want to hear from everybody. So we're gonna ask everybody to keep your comments or questions to 2 minutes or less. And we're going to start now. So this is our meeting agenda. While we have the agenda, we're going to do our Cpac business and updates. We're going to get Title I updates from the state. We're going to talk about our theme is students in temporary housing again. We're going to continue the conversation with Michael Hickey. We're going to hear from Face Updates. Then we're going to hear from our chancellor. This morning, we have the education chair of the city council, Regis Joseph. And then we're going to continue our conversation on safety concerns.
I'm sorry, Shirley, are you sharing? Because we're not seeing anything if you are.
Oh, let's see, it came off. I am going to, there we go. Can you see that now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So, as we're going to do roll call at this time, and we're going to just go normal. District 1. District 1. District number 2. District 3.
Present.
Thank you, Jimmy. Good morning. And Rashida's coming in. I don't know if she's going to hear yet, but District 4, that's Rashida. She's coming in. District 5. District 5.
District 1's here, thank you.
Yes, we know. Thank you, Rashida. District 5. District 6. I think I saw Luis.
Good morning, present.
All right. Good morning, Luis. District 7. District number 7. District 8. District number 8. District 9.
Good morning, Gladys Gomez for District 9.
Good morning, Gladys. District 10. District number 10. District 11. Number 11. District 12. District number 12. District 13. District number 13. District 14. District 14. So Maria, Aisha, I got you. That's District 5 and 10 is present. District 15. District 15. District 16. District 17.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. District 18. District number 18. District 19.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Thelma. District 20.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Tamara. District 21.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Randy. I spoke to you. District 22. District 22. Okay. District 23, I saw Josh, I believe.
Good morning.
Good morning, Josh. District 24. District 24. Okay, Randy's not here yet. District 25, I know Francis is here.
Good morning, everyone.
District 26. District 26. District 27. District 27. District 28. Jessica said she would be late. District 29. District 29. Okay. District 30. District 30. District 31. District 31. District 32. Hi, Jazzy.
Present.
District 75. Andrea's here.
Present.
Bronx High School. Bronx High Schools. Brooklyn High Schools. Okay. Manhattan High Schools. Queens is present. Staten Island High Schools. Staten Island. I know it's the summer. So, okay. Thank you for everyone who's here today. So we're gonna move on right along to the minutes. Everyone got copies of the minutes. Everybody got copies of the best practices. Also the resolution on safety, our third one on safety.
Wow, that wasn't like that?
Naquan, could you mute
I'm
yourself?
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So let's review the minutes, and then we're gonna ask someone to make a motion to adopt them. Randy will put in the attendance sheet as a backup. So please, everyone sign the attendance sheet. Once it's placed in the chat, it may be already. I'm not looking. Francis, you have your hands raised?
I just want to make a motion to adopt the minutes, and great job on the minutes.
Thank you for the motion. Can we have someone for us to second that? Can we have someone second the minutes,
I
please?
second that motion, Shirley.
Andrea, awesome. Thank you so much. And the screen already changed. We're going to just review the best practices. This is PA-PTA best practices in regard and PA-PTA presidents and the school safety committee. I hope everyone had a chance to review it before this meeting, but it is on the screen, and I will switch it to the second page when we get there. Give you some time. And this best practices, this is a updated version. Cpac had passed one a few years back, and this is coming from the high school committee. Francis,
Making a motion to approve.
thank you. Can we have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. D75.
Somebody wrote something in the chat too, by the way.
Randy, y'all have to look at the chat. Thelma is the 9. Okay, Randy will check that out. Thank you, Thelma. Now we're going to move on to the resolutions. To the resolution regarding safety. Again, this is from the high school committee. Francis,
Make a motion to approve.
I second it.
thank you. So I am going to go back because I think we're all kind of slow, still in the summer mode. Anyone opposes any of the best practices or this resolution at this time, this is your opportunity to do so or abstain for the record. Jimmy, you seconded?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. So that's District 3. All right, awesome. So working groups, we really didn't have much. I'm just going to jump into the citywide CEP template. We did have one in June. Quickly just going over the CEP template and the resource page. But the main point for that is when you don't have to log into the iPlan to get the resources needed to help to formulate the CEP. So I think that was the key point. Not everybody probably have their sign in for the iPlan. So any parent, any SOT member can log in and see the resources and have access to them without logging into the iPlan. I'm going to ask Aisha if she's able to, otherwise about the CEC election working group, real brief. You just give us a minute synopsis. We actually had a meeting this week.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We met and the DOE gave us the marketing, what they're thinking about doing for the election cycle starting in January, and asked our ideas basically, or what we thought about their connecting the three not campaigns, but the three parts of the election, the marketing plan. And they took our ideas. They said, I guess they'll talk to other people, they'll go to the CECs and others, and take all of that into consideration for their marketing. So we gave them suggestions, what we liked, what we didn't, and they'll take it back, like the application process, the town halls, the forums, stuff like that. And we're hoping we'll meet with them again to, continue that process. They were good, they were bad. So I know it's supposed to be a minute. So sorry, that's about it.
Thank you, Aisha. And I'm just going to add that the candidate forum dates are set for every candidate forum. The dates are set, and the election team will be reaching out to president's councils. And they stated that they work with president's councils with their dates that didn't submit it because the deadline was June 15th, but all the dates are set now. I know Cpac updates, faces restructuring and there's new personnel. The superintendents were supposed to have their team in place by August 1st. Most teams had a small team of 6. The team members are now up to 23. And listening and learning tours with parent leaders in the communities should be going on throughout the summer. You know what? I know it's, I'm gonna let Naquan go and then we're gonna go back to the other things. All right, so we have with us Naquan McLean for Title I updates. I know, and also Cherie is here on the background, but Cpac would like to congratulate for being appointed to the PEP, and also Mitchell Wu to the Civic Engagement Commission. Cherie was 1 hour. She was a Cpac member and she was a former co-chair of Cpac. So we're going to talk about Title I, and Naquan is going to give us updates about Title I. So Naquan, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to give you the floor.
Good morning. Actually, Cherie will be giving the updates. I'm here to back her up today. Cherie, I'm going to turn on my camera though.
Yep. Good morning, all. Thank you, Shirley, and thank you all in the chat for the well wishes. Today, I'm here with my Title I COPS hat on, and can I share my screen, you guys?
Okay, let me find it. Hold on a second. Naquan needs to share his screen too?
No, just me. I have the slides.
All right. You got it.
All righty. So there's a lot going on at the state level. And so I'm going to try to go through this quickly, but please let me know if anything that I need to slow down or any further detailed questions. So thank you for welcoming us once again this month. We are, Naquan and myself are 2 of the 3 parent representatives on the New York State Ed Title I Committee of Practitioners, called Title I COPS. So quickly, our updates from what we're discussing at the state are the Blue Ribbon Commission on Graduation Measures, an update on that. The last time I was here, we talked about the state accountability, that gives you your good standing CSI, comprehensive support indicators, or TSI, targeted support. Those designations for your school, they have been on pause since the pandemic, and the U.S. Department of Education has determined that all states have to get back to they're reviewing accountability and holding schools accountable and labeling them, putting on what their levels designations are. So the plan has been to figure out how do we do that with so many different things happened over the pandemic. So I have an update on that. Then also, you should all know, if you don't know already, that we have, Common Core as a standard is gone. New York State Ed has developed a new called Next Gen Learning Standards. And so they have now moved from those standards, educating stuff, to now curriculum. So give a quick update on that, and our Title I update. So I'm going to do our Title I's updates first, because they're the easiest. So all our Title I PACs and DPACs should be beginning this month, planning and getting themselves prepared and ready for September and October, which are the big push for Title I PACs and DPACs. Title I PACs should be involving themselves in orientations and open house, so they can let incoming parents and parents know what they are, who they are, what they're doing, and what they're going to be working on for the year. And then the citywide Title I PAC group PAC has been on hiatus for the summer, and hopefully they will be back in September. I know they're going to be back in September. I'm not sure what date it is yet. Okay, so the Blue Ribbon Commission. So if you're not familiar with, New York State Ed determined that for high school, they needed to relook at the graduation, what it means to graduate with a New York State diploma, what it should look like, what it should be, what should go through it. So they determined to put together a Blue Ribbon Commission that will look at the graduation measures and make recommendations for the Board of Regents and the commissioner. So the process started back in 2019 with they were in-person meetings, regional meetings, to discuss with everybody, all stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, principals, administrators, everybody across the state, to find out what they think about graduation, what it should be. And look, they've now, that paused because of the pandemic. It finished up earlier this spring with virtual. And so they've now taken all that information, and they're now looking to get members for the commission. So the application was open, I think, from May through June, and it closed. They have received over over 600 applications for people to serve on the commission, and they're reviewing that. And they hope to have the members of the commission to the Board of Regents September or October this fall. So the commission will get started in the fall. Part of the commission, as you see on the slide on two, will have a parent advisory committee and a student advisory committee. In addition to, there will be a steering committee that will work with the commission as well. The parent advisory committee and student advisory committee, they are accepting names. So if you are interested in serving on this or know a student that would be interested or good serving on it, please share their names with us and we will bring it to the commissioner, the deputy commissioner in charge of the Blue Ribbon Commission. The work will be split up between two subcommittees: the program requirements and learning experiences, and measurements and assessments. So all the information about, detailed information about the commission and what they'll be doing can be found on the website. And I will also put a link to that in the chat. Just to give you their draft timeline of what they're going to do, phase 1 has finished. They're now into phase 2, which will specifically be the work of the commission and setting out what they're doing, how they'll develop the recommendations, etc., with the advisory groups. And then the third phase, which you'll see should be spring of summer 2024, is the final report is presented to it. So anybody that you're looking to recommend, or if you want to be a part of it yourself, just realize that it is a 2-year commitment that you'll be working through this fall, all of next year, to produce the report for 2024. So as an accountability, I'm sorry, I'm going quick, but does anybody have any questions on that? Just, I'm sharing my screen, so I can't see. So Naquan, you let me know. Oh, Naquan, did you want to add anything about the commission? I'm sorry.
No, you said it well. I do know that the commission, you had to be recommended. There was a recommended part where someone can recommend you to be a part of it, or you can sign up to be a part of it yourself. I believe both of those dates have closed.
Yes.
But there is still opportunity to be on either the committees.
Advisory groups.
So as Cherie said, if you are interested, please let us know and we will definitely send your names in.
Okay, thank you, Naquan. So for the accountability restart, so I was telling Naquan, we were trying to find a way to make this really concise for you guys, but they have a webinar that I think anybody that's interested in this and seeing the details of what they're going to plan and do, I will put the link in the chat to really understand and go through. And the webinar is really cool in terms of the slides and the recording, and it's self-paced that you could do it yourself. But I just wanted to give quickly a few things we wanted to highlight for you. So where we are now is in the third part, but I wanted to thank everyone that did respond in April to their request. They received 654 survey responses, and the majority all believed in favor of minimizing whatever data that we use from 2020, 21, 22 to look at accountability for it. So that's how they shape their overall plan based on what the requirements that the U.S. Department of Eds have put in. They've determined a few things that will impact how our schools are evaluated and our district. So these are the accountability indicators, are things that they've used in the past to determine how successful, how your school is performing. And so what you see here is the reasoning, the statuses of what they can get from 2020 for 21, 22. So as you can see, like there's a lot of data missing, or there's not complete, right? Or enough. So there are certain things that they always use that they're saying like we can't use, but there's things they can. We can use the graduation rate. We can use the English language proficiency, and also understanding that chronic absenteeism, there is an expected high absenteeism. So making sure that we level off in how we use that, right? So growth, they don't think, because it's not fair to measure if a school has shown growth in their progress in their work, because we have so many kids that are behind that they have to bring up to speed, right? So there's a lot of data missing there. So what they determined, what they have put forth, and they think that the USDA is going to approve, because they've supported this in other states, is that they would do a weighted average achievement for elementary and high school. And this weighted average achievement is different for high school this year. They would do core subject performances and the English language proficiency and chronic absenteeism for elementary and middle school levels, and all of those plus the graduation rate for high school and stuff. So these are specific cut points that they're going to use to evaluate. They're only going to use 21 and 22 data. So 1920, 2021, not only 1 year. So they likened it that they're not going to turn on the full spigot. It's going to be a dimmer, right? They're going to slowly edge us back into how they evaluate our schools. The indicators that have been dropped is academic progress and growth, and then CCR, which is college and career civic readiness. Those evaluation indicators will not be used for the upcoming school year. So in summary, it's a 21 slide page thing that goes into details. I will put the link and upload it in the chat. But in summary, what they're stating is they're only, as I said, only going to use 21, 22 data. They're not going to use the growth, academic, and CCR accountabilities. They will split the composite performance looking at weighted average achievement and core subjects. And those cut points will be listed. They're the same ones that we reviewed. And you're going to do a 1-year roster for the English language proficiency as opposed to 2 years. And then they have different scenarios that will help inform how they identify your schools. And like I said, the slides will give you more detail on that. So I hope that helps it. Might not, let me know if you need more details. I'm more than willing to talk offline with anybody. Talk it through with anybody. So standards to curriculum. So the next generation learning standards are in place. That's what we're moving forward with. And now they're moving to curriculum. I'm showing on the screen their timeline. So we're in the September 2022, which means that science, the new standards for science are coming online for grades 4 and 7 in their curriculum is coming online. We already have pre-K through 8 for ELA and math, utilizing the next generation standards. So curriculum that every school picks from this year and going forward has to align with next generation learning standards. And then you see for next year, science coming in for grades 5 and 8, grade 9 ELA and Algebra 1, and then we continue on for the rest of the years. By 2025, the entire curriculum and standards for all courses all the way through high school. And I think that is it for me. Naquan, did I miss anything? Oh, and the rest of the July meeting was a conversation with the commissioner who joined us, and we were talking about staffing because that is a big issue across the state of superintendents, administrators, principals, etc. So what could they be doing to help strengthen that and grow that? And so it was a very robust and good conversation with the commissioner, who was pleased to join us for the first time and then plans to join us further. So Naquan, anything?
No, you covered it all. You covered it all. And as Cherie said, I have to jump for 10 o'clock. But as Cherie said, if anybody needs further information or clarity, please reach out. We will be willing to sit down and walk you through. It's a 3-hour meeting. So we just summed up a 3-hour, well, Cherie just summed up a 3-hour meeting in 5 minutes. But we are willing to sit down with anyone that wants clarity on what happened at that meeting. But thank you again for inviting me. I have to jump off.
Thank you, Naquan, for being here. Thank you, Cherie. There is a question in the chat. I'm going to read it out loud, but Cherie, I'm going to have to let Michael Hickey. Everybody's on a tight schedule today, so he's up next. So the question is, how will the makeup of these groups reflect New York State population? And will there be any equal number of representatives from each city, or will it be based on student enrollment?
Do you want me to answer, or
if you can, real quick? And then,
so for the commission, I'm assuming, and the students group, it will be comprehensive. I don't know if it'll be equal, but it will have parts from all over the state. It's not any one thing, any one state or not. They do, put a few more depending on like the big cities. the big cities like New York City, Rochester, the big five, they call themselves. Yes, students will be on. And one of the things that I thought was great about the students is that they don't just want high achieving students. They want students that struggled, like what was their difficulty in the process. So that is a part of what the commission will be dealing with. So it is supposed to be representative and reflective of what New York State is. I just won't say that it'll be equal numbers or anything like that. So I hope that answered the question, Gladys.
Thank you so much, Cherie. So without further ado, Michael Hickey is ready to rock and roll and talk about student and temporary housing. You already have a co-host, so you can share your screen if needed. So here we go for the Executive Director of Student and Temporary Housing, Michael Hickey.
Thank you, Shirley. And it's so great to be with you guys today. If you're not familiar with the work of the Department of Education on this topic, I'm looking forward to sharing just a couple of slides that I think will help provide some context. But I'm frankly relying on you all to make this a useful conversation. I brought a lot of additional materials with me. I'm happy to talk about anything that's of interest or concern. I imagine that you all invited me here because you do have things on your mind about this topic, and indeed, it's a very important one. Let me share my screen. And I'll start just by walking through a few slides that I think should help us give a little bit of useful framing for this topic. Let me just also open up the chat so I can see if anybody wants to drop anything in the chat. I can track the chat window. Okay.
I will assist you. Randy and I will assist you with the chat.
Oh, well, thank you, Shirley. I appreciate that. Great. All right. Students in temporary housing. So first off, just want to make sure that we're clear on what that is and what it is not. This is defined by federal law, the McKinney-Vento Act, and it's for students that are affected by homelessness. That includes the bulk of our students affected by homelessness are living doubled up due to economic hardship. So that's different from families who are doubled up because they live in multi-generational households or with family but not due to economic hardship. That's not considered homelessness. That's just a respected and understandable cultural or family decision. We're talking about people that can't afford to have a place, and so they're crashing on family or friend's couch. Living in shelter, obviously, there's about 250 shelter locations, family shelter locations between Department of Homeless Services and the Human Resources Administration, which runs the domestic violence family shelter system. We work with all of those shelter provider partners and with their agencies. And finally, the other temporary housing category, these tend to be the most extreme situations for families where they're living in their cars or sleeping rough, living in a park, living in an abandoned building. And there are situations where that is unfortunately the circumstances for the family. I want to give you a sense of how the team itself is built to provide supports to these students and families. So I'm going to concentrate on the orange boxes here first. There's about 200 DOE personnel that work in schools. They work in schools with very high numbers of students in temporary housing, and I can talk about what that means, very high numbers. We have 100 Bridging the Gap social workers. People might have heard of this category or this title of worker before. They're social workers that are specifically there to identify students affected by homelessness, to provide mental health services and clinical supports for that population. But they also provide other mental health services in form of group counseling sessions and even school-wide culture and climate issues. And then there's referral partners helping to connect students and families to benefits and other resources or supports either in the school or in the community. We also have 107 community coordinators in schools. Many of you are familiar with the coordinator title. It's a very common title across the city and in the DOE in schools. They're incredible resource partners. So again, these coordinators identify every child in the school that's affected by homelessness, make sure they have a relationship connection or part of tracking that child and referring that child to supports, particularly when that child is showing that they're disconnected from school. If they are missing a lot of school or really struggling, that's when the coordinator is able to kind of use the data that's available in the school to check in with teachers, to check in with guidance counselors, social workers, et cetera, and make sure additional supports are being provided. Now, in the blue box, you'll notice we have a number of DOE personnel that actually work in shelters. So we have 117 family assistants. These are folks that are there to meet with families when they arrive in shelter and to make sure families are aware of their rights and to provide supports to them as they seek to navigate homelessness and at the same time keep their child connected to school. And there's a lot that we can talk about how families interact with schools while they're going through shelter. That's a very tricky time, as you can imagine. But our family assistants meet with those families, conduct an intake, make sure they're connected to enrollment supports, to transportation services, that they're part of communicating with the school if the child is disconnected from school. And in fact, one of the things that we really value about having, these 300 personnel out there is that it really helps us build stronger connections between schools and shelters in particular when there are difficulties. All this team is supported by a small but mighty band of regional managers and then my direct reports who supervise our regional managers. The reason, let me just say one thing quickly about regional managers, which is that these are our experts. These are the people they're assigned to specific districts. So in the second, I'll pop into the chat the website on the DOE's overall internet where you can locate the regional manager supporting a specific district. So if you have concerns about a child in that district, you know how to reach out to for escalation support, and they'll help you resolve those issues. We are in the process of hiring an additional 75 shelter-based personnel. We're hoping to get that posting up in the next month or so. Everything's ready to go. We're waiting on approval from OMB. That's the last step in the process. So we're really, really excited that we're going to be able to expand our supports and direct contact for students and families in shelters, because you might have remember I said there's 250 shelters, but we only have 117 family assistants. So we know we need just more people out there helping to provide coverage in all those locations. Okay. So in addition to those STH team dedicated personnel, every school has an identified STH liaison. It's a guidance counselor, a social worker, sometimes an assistant principal, occasionally the principal. They're named in the school's annual plan. And it's their job to make sure that they're identifying the schools in the students in the building that are affected by homelessness, planning to use a very significant allocation of funding, federal funding, that's just for supporting those students and families affected by homelessness, and then being a part of problem solving on behalf of those families or escalating those problems. When we look at the data, there are a lot of schools that have high numbers of students affected by homelessness. Sometimes a shelter opens up down the block from an elementary school. Homelessness tends to skew younger. You're more likely to be in a family affected by homelessness if you're a younger person. So when a shelter opens up and you have a larger shelter with a lot of young people in it, they might just walk down the street to the elementary school because that's convenient. Well, you can wind up with a school with a lot of young people from a shelter or a couple of shelters that need additional support in the school. So we work very closely with those relationships. There are other schools that just happen to be in communities where there are high numbers of shelters placed, and other reasons why some schools just tend to have higher numbers of STH. Those places are the places where we've put dedicated DOE personnel. But in fact, nearly every single one of our 1,600 schools has at least a couple of children who are affected by homelessness, whether they're living doubled up or whether they're living in shelter. It's a very common and yet not very visible issue. And one of the reasons we've worked very, very hard over the past few years on raising visibility around this topic is because we know that every school is affected by it, even if it's just for a couple of young people. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to actually read this slide or talk through it. What I like to say about this is that it gives you a sense of the way that we do our work within the Department of Education. So on the very top left-hand corner, we work with students. We're there directly interacting with young people to understand what's happening to them in their day and help them make sure they have food, make sure they have clothing, make sure they have school supplies. If they need academic supports, if they're dealing with a social emotional issue, that's why we're there. We also obviously extend that caring and understanding of need to the work we do with our families to help families understand the system that they're in and how the DOE can provide supports and resources to help navigate their needs. We work with schools a lot. We do a lot of guidance, training, teaching, professional development for personnel in schools that interact with these populations. And then, of course, we work with district leaders and the DOE generally to build guidance around some of the more complicated or nuanced issues around things like transportation or the use of Title I STH dollars. So we really run the gamut from direct service work to district-wide policy and planning on this population. I'm going to pause here. That's plenty of me talking. I would much rather hear you guys talking. And again, I'm sure many of you have a lot of thoughts, insights, or concerns about this population. I'd be happy to respond to those.
I don't see any hands or comments in the chat, but I'm going to engage you for a second. So at those 117 sites, right, that's staffed out of the 250, it's the summer. Are your staff is engaging them during the summer as well? Or did they help them sign up for Summer Rising? Are they still in communication with with their school or the district, subject to that effect? And we got a question here. That's right. How are the funds distributed for student and temporary housing in general, and what is it based on?
Great. Shirley, let me respond to your question first, and then I want to respond to, I hope it's Tamara or Tamara. I'll have to, I have friends that go by both. So Shirley, the 117 staff that work in shelters are family workers or family assistants, if folks are familiar with that title. It is a 10-month title, so they don't work in July and August. Now, we traditionally have had an arrangement, which we have in place this summer, where staff that are available and interested in working summer hours, we provide additional funding. We essentially pay them to work extra hours over the summer. So we have about 30 or 40 of those personnel who are available this summer working in shelters. The community coordinators that work in schools, those are 12-month employees. And for many of them, their schools shut down or not as active in the summertime. They may be small, supporting a smaller Summer Rising program there, but those coordinators have more flexibility. And so in the summertime, we move a lot of those coordinators into shelter locations to provide the same supports, and as a matter of fact, more extensive supports than a family worker would. So that's one way we're able to provide better coverage in the summer. Now, you remember I mentioned we're hiring 75 additional shelter-based personnel. Those will be coordinator titles, so they'll be 12-month employees. And we're really looking forward to having full-year employees that are able to support that population, because the population in shelters tends to actually grow slightly over the summer. And the summer has been no exception. We've seen a significant increase in the population. I'm happy to talk more about that. So for school-based funding for students in temporary housing, the allocation is called Title I, which is a much broader funding category, but there's a part of that budget that is specific to students in temporary housing. And in fact, it's allocated on a per student basis. So there's a dollar amount per student. It's actually roughly just a little bit under $1,000 per student. And then the schools which have data on which of their students are affected by homelessness, so they report that into the DOE. And the DOE says, great, here's how we're going to divide up that funding. So it's really very needs-based and focused on the population of students in temporary housing identified in each school location. So we consider that to be a pretty equitable process for distributing that funding. And if people would like to get more details on it, are folks familiar with the school allocation memorandum process? It's they're the memos that guide how the DOE, okay. I think you have some pretty smart groups. So I think you guys are familiar with it. Yes. There's a whole memo dedicated to just explaining how the Title I STH dollars are allocated. If I have a moment, or if someone has a moment and wants to dig into the SAM website, we can grab it and throw the copy in the link so you can get more details about that. What else you guys got for me?
I don't see anything in the chat or anything. I don't think, if we have any more further questions or concerns, we know how to reach you.
I will definitely drop my email and phone number into the chat. I'll also put the link in for people to find, if you want to contact any of our regional managers or directors, I'll throw that link in the chat as well. And the last thing, actually, I'll put one more link in the chat, which is all 324 school and shelter-based personnel, we have a public list of who they are and where they work. And I'll put that link in the chat as well. So if you're ever working with a school, ever working with a shelter, and you want to know if there's a DOE dedicated staff person there, you can just grab that link and it'll help you look them up and get their contact information. So I'm so glad you guys are taking the time to learn about this topic. There's so much more that we're working on. I want to put in two quick plugs, if I may. One is that we did receive $30 million in stimulus funds specifically for students and families affected by homelessness. We've been very involved with a lot of our stakeholders, including our students and families, in planning the use of that funding. We're just beginning to implement that funding now. And it includes a number of really compelling interagency partnerships to work on issues like permanent housing and supports for students that transfer schools in the middle of the year, and that's hard for them. So really, really looking forward to learning a lot through the use of that funding. And at the same time, a bunch of that money is going to do things like make sure that we have warm coats available for our young people. We have food available for our young people. Like, we want to make sure we're meeting any immediate needs too. So that's a whole part of our activity that we'll be spending a lot of time on this upcoming year. The second is that each winter we host the STH Achieve annual conference. And that conference is about 1,000 people from across the DOE that are there just to learn about how to support STH populations, how to be in partnership with other people that are doing that work, and learning from the people who are the experts about, everything from trauma-informed practice to improving attendance. For anybody that's interested, you all are hereby invited. Would love to have you be present for it. Again, I'll put a little bit of information in the chat about how to make sure you're tracking that if you're interested in joining.
I'm not listening, but I'm gonna be decent. Today, I'm not
17, please mute yourself. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Co-Chair Alban, thank you so much for inviting me here today. It was a pleasure. Please invite me back. And if anybody has questions, I look
we
forward
have
to
a
hearing
hand.
them.
Madam Chair, you have a hand. Yes.
I see it, Marie. Thank you. I just said that. Brooklyn High Schools.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you and good morning. I just have a question because right now I know that the shelters are at capacity almost, with a mixture of like we already had a homelessness problem, but my question is, when students are going to when families are trying to enter the shelter system, what is the average now that students are waiting at the intake? Because I know that the intake office is not really a shelter itself. People process families and send families out. But I've heard as of recent, families have had to stay there for like a week before they're sent to whatever shelter or whatever space they're gonna be in, albeit temporary, but that's a long time to wait in an intake, and how does that affect the students that are in the intake in the interim? How does it affect them getting their ability to get to school and so on?
100%. So just to be clear, the intake center for the family shelter system that's run by the Department of Homeless Services is in the Bronx. It's called PATH. And in fact, all families are processed the same day they enter. So I believe there was an incident a couple of weeks ago where one family spent the night at PATH because they arrived very late in the day and it was very difficult to get them a housing assignment. That, for good reason, caused a bit of an uproar, and PATH has since amended its policies. So, many years ago, PATH stopped allowing or creating circumstances where families were spending the night there because, we all agree that was kind of inhuman. So at present, families are put immediately into what's called a conditional placement, where they have a safe place to stay until a final determination is made, usually within a week or two, about whether or not they'll be admitted to the shelter system permanently.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, of course. I see Thelma looks like she has a question too.
Yes, she does. Thelma.
Okay. I just wanted to address when he was talking about PATH. What happens a lot of the times is they don't get immediately placed into conditional placement. They, if they're there all day and they couldn't find them placement, especially when you have families who are going to the domestic violence portion, or families who have people in their composition who are disabled. Sometimes what they do is they put them in overnight situations where they have to keep coming back until they find them placement. So what happens to those children?
Yes. So what we do with any family that's been displaced, whether they're in a very temporary situation or they're moving into long-term shelter housing, is we connect with those families. We actually have staff, DOE personnel at PATH. They meet with those families as they come through, and they talk with those families about where they want to keep their child enrolled. Most families opt to keep their child enrolled at the school that they're currently attending, which, as you can imagine, is really important. That helps to minimize some of the disruption for the children and the family. But for those families that are placed significant distances from their current home, that can impose other hardships. It means they have to, deal with getting a long bus ride or some other alternative transportation in order to get to school every day. So we try to minimize those circumstances. Right now, about 90% of the families that are placed into shelter are placed in their borough of origin. So we don't have as many families that are being displaced to very far boroughs, which is good. DHS has been working very hard to change that practice because we know it imposes different hardships on families. But we also have really dramatically reduced the amount of time it takes to get assigned to busing, put on a bus route if you are displaced to a significantly distant location. And we continue to work with OPT to come up with creative solutions for families. So folks might have heard a little bit about the essentially car service option that we created to support families over this past summer, where if a family wanted to keep their child in the extended day portion for summer rising, we could arrange for a car service through Uber, and I'm not going to remember the name of the other car service, but 2 car services where they could actually go and the parent or guardian could go pick up their child at 6 p.m. At no cost to the family. So great question, Thelma. I mean, obviously, this is a critical issue for us. It's one we pay a lot of attention to. We work very closely with the Office of People Transportation and with the shelter partners and with PATH. Because, like you, we want to just make sure we're not creating more barriers for families than they're already experiencing. We want to keep their child in their school of origin if at all possible.
Right, because OPT is definitely an issue, especially when you have children who are in special ed as well.
Yes.
And they're displaced. It creates a bit of a problem when we're talking about getting their children to and from school.
Yeah. Rashida, it's funny. It wasn't Lyft. It's actually a car service cooperative, and I'm just blanking on the name right now. I'll see if I can pull it up. It's interesting. It's you know, but yeah, we're thankful to them and to Uber for providing that service. Okay, just hold for 10 more seconds. Just see if there's any other questions.
Don't see anything. Oh, one more hand. This will be the last question.
Very good.
So make
Thank
sure
you.
I didn't call you yet. Just give me a second. Well, I think no. There is also a question in the chat. What was okay? So before Andrea posed her, what was the event that you had invited us to?
So it's our STH Achieve annual conference. And I'll put a link into the chat so that you all can track that. And if there's I'll even put in a link. So if you're interested in getting more information about it, we can make sure you get emailed. That normally happens. We haven't scheduled it yet, but it normally happens in February.
Thank you. So Rashida, go ahead, ask the question again one more time. Yeah.
That was my question. That was my question.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Well, maybe we'll get a couple of you to come join us. That would be lovely.
We definitely will. We will. In District 4 in East Harlem, we have a large amount of our parent healing ambassadors that supported the parents with getting trauma-informed learning and trauma-informed care and professional development for themselves. So they're working on themselves and their families and their schools, and really want to include our families in temporary housing and build that bridge.
I love that. I love that. It's so powerful. And, you know, we like to say that we try to do 3 things at the conference every year. You know, one is help people learn more. We want people to walk out with more information than they came in with. The second one is to build relationships. You know, doing this work is hard. Doing it alone is impossible. And so we really want people to have, to know who the partners are around them so they can access them for support. And the third one is opportunity to step back, reflect, and take care of yourself. This work involves a lot of secondary trauma, you know, dealing with families that are going through trauma. And we want people to be able to use the conference as a place where they can re-energize. And by the way, before the pandemic, the last conference we did in person, we've done virtual conferences the past 2 years, but the last conference we did before the pandemic, we had a room full of massage chairs. In addition to our arts and crafts room and our sharing tents where people just could go and have someone listen to them for a few minutes. And we did a lot of things that I think were just super fun, and really looking forward to hosting the conference again this upcoming year. Hope you all will come.
Oh, thank you, Michael. So thank you, Cpac members. We are awake, or we are being engaging, and we are listening to you. Mr. Hickey, feel free to, don't wait for an invitation. Feel free, if there's important information, please just contact us, and we'll add you on. It's very important that all our children get all the services and the attentions that they need. So thank you so much for taking the time and being with us again.
Very good. My pleasure. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. So before we go into face updates, I don't see Christina or Jesse. We're going to go back.
It's here, Shirley.
Dr. Melendez is here, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. So give me a second. Let me just, Christina, give me a second. I just want to. Okay, so we have a minute. So we're going to do one section in between. So announcements. So we know that there's been advocacy for not to cut the budget. So the judge had stated, put it order for the Education Council, the New York City Council members to revote and the PEP. And the courts also did now put a stay order because the mayor in New York City is appealing. So the hearing for that hearing is the end of August. I believe the date is the 29th. But we are encouraging everyone to voice. If you don't want the education for cuts to be made to education, tell your council member, tell them to vote no when they vote again. If that is the result of the hearing on the appeals level, right? Keep continuing putting pressure on our elected officials. This is what we want. We don't want cuts to education. We need every funds that we have right now. This is not the time to cut services and resources and opportunities for our children. So the next announcement, academic recovery services. Randy.
We would like clarification on that. We heard that it's not going to be the same as it was this year. So we'd like to get updates to find out how the students are going to be selected and what's going to be done for students that didn't receive them this year. So it's not actually an announcement. We need more clarification from the DOE.
Okay, and then we would like to speak on behalf of the high schools. High schools was not funded for summarizing. They were only funded for regular summer school. And parents been asking why high school was left out of summarizing, because our teenagers, our high schoolers also need enrichment activities and the social emotional and an opportunity for the education loss. So that is we're not going to take any hands right now, Francis. So I'm just going to go real quick through the announcements, and then we'll, after face, in between, we're going to address these topics, right? So we want to let everybody know there's a staff shortages at the superintendent's office in regards to special education and multi-language learners. Not all the superintendent's team will have these BCOs that were specifically for those. Not all teams will have everybody. So one person may be more than one district. So just keep that in mind. And what topics we want to speak about. We didn't send the survey or the questionnaire about what topics you wanted for this month. We all decided that we were going to repeat June on certain topics because students in temporary housing and safety is a real priority right now. But we want to hear from you. Please fill out the survey. Usually only 1 to 4 people fills out the survey because your feedback matters. We need to hear from you. This is the council's meeting. This is not the board's meeting or me or Randy's meeting. So at that point, I'm going to stop sharing. And we'll come back to CC's and President's Council's quarterly meetings. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Dr. Cristina Melendez and Jesse Mojica for face updates.
Good morning, Cpac. I am so excited to be here. I feel like I've missed you. It's been a while. I have Jesse here. Jesse, you can say good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone as always.
I love all your smiling faces. Rashida and Lourdes are always smiling. It's great. Hi, Jimmy. All right, sorry. So some face updates. We have a lot going on. It's been a very busy month. 2 months here at FACE. We're doing the most, as they say, in trying to, rethink how we really are supportive of our parent leadership structures and how do we really think about our other parents, right? That I think all of our parent leaders want to have more parents come out, are interested in having more parents be engaged. And sometimes that just hasn't happened. And I think, interestingly enough, the pandemic helped us see and meet more people because it was this virtual space and everyone was sort of hunkered down in one space, either their homes or wherever they were staying. So we want to continue that. We want to grow that. So we have really thought about FACE, and I shared this before here at Cpac. So we will continue to do the governance piece as we always have. And then we're rethinking some of the things that we used to do before, like our parent empowerment work. We're rethinking that space and thinking about it more as like a parent mentorship space. And how do we hunker down on like our neediest school districts? And we're pairing up a very small team to pilot a very small program that really centers a lot of the work that many of you have been involved in, from healing centered schools to really thinking through about like families and traumas and, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is real, right? If we don't address our families' real needs, urgent needs, we can't really get them to do all the other things that we want them to do with our schools. And so how do we use the school as a space to provide some of that support and some of that programming? So we're thinking through the programming, we're thinking through the districts. I think we're sort of somewhere with our districts, but definitely once we have them, we'll pass them through you so we could hear some feedback on those districts from you guys as well. And also, as we think through the programming, we would love to hear some of your feedback and thoughts about what programs work exclusively for parents or for families. This is not a kid thing. This is more of like, how do we create opportunities for families to own spaces in our schools, where healing spaces, family-oriented spaces. And so we're definitely going to think through that with you. We're going to need to think through that with you because you are the boots on the ground. You really, really, really know the spaces. Again, we're starting with very small, like maybe 4 districts and just a couple of schools within the districts and trying to grow after that. So we're going to need a lot of supports from you around just how to navigate those spaces that you know so well. What are better spaces than others? What are spaces where really needs the support, but maybe not the most fertile ground right now? So we're going to need some help there. So just know that that's coming. And like Shirley and Randy, they send out those forms with like, give us your feedback or what you want to talk about. I'm really going to ask you through Cpac to give me your dates when you can participate in conversations with us so that we can really do this work well. So that's one thing that we're thinking about planning, and then definitely coming to you specifically for that support and insight and thought partnership. We also have a piece of our work that's really focusing on our superintendents and our principals. You know, a lot of the work that FACE does with empowering families or parents is that we get them to this place where they're ready to like engage, and then they get to schools and they shut the door on them. And so how do we make sure that everyone sort of understands what engagement looks like, what empowerment looks like, how we're receiving and welcoming parents, and what does it mean to have a parent that's an advocate, right? Like, it's not a bad thing for the school. It's actually a great thing for the school and the district. And so how do we change some of the mindsets of our school leaders to understand that we need to create more receiving, welcoming, open spaces? And so there's a team of folks that's really just exclusively working with our principals and our superintendents to put them through these experiences every month where they're like, oh, so that's how we should be thinking about this work. But it's tiered. Of course, we have school leaders that are amazing at doing this work, and many of you probably know those people. And then there's some school leaders that just need some supports and to loosen up the fear factor that comes with like having more people in their buildings. So we're working through all of those with that group. And then our last one is our community partnerships group, which is really dedicated to our advocacy and CBOs, but also like things like your Mr. Hickley, who was on, just how do we do interagency work? How do we, you know, there's so much work that many of our constituency, meaning families and kids, try to navigate and deal across the city in different ways, from our HRA to so from HRA to like homeless services, there's so many agencies that our families need to navigate and use to support. And so how can we sort of streamline that process so that we are not, as a school system, misleading or weaponizing some of our agencies against some families, as we've seen just recently, right? So we want to make sure that we have conversations interagency where everyone's very clear about what's going on and what's needed and how we're looking at the work and how we can all be supportive of the work. So that's sort of where FACE is and what we're thinking about. We're going to come in different spaces. We don't want to hijack your meeting time, but we're definitely interested in having folks, once we identify these districts, having folks from those districts, you know, really chime in and work through with us around what does that parent mentorship piece look like? How should we implement it? How should we go about it? It's not one size fits all. It can't be the same programs for everybody. That doesn't make sense. So how are we going to think through that? And there's no better place for us to be to do that than right here with all of you. So just know, please, 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 happy to work around your schedule, however that works for you. But please know that. I think the other part that I want to also share is that our FLC training, our governance team, has decided that it's really important. I mean, not just the governance team, but in my 8 months being here, I've realized that we really need to think about how we're training the folks that are in our district offices so that we have a unified voice across the system. So historically, you can call 3 different face people and get 3 different answers. You can call your FLC and get another answer. And we want to sort of level set that. We want to get the same information across the board because the regulation is very clear. So how do we make sure that everyone's sort of clear and on the same page? And so we've added to our list most recently, just really working with our FLCs to provide them the supports they need so that they can catch up, learn. There's so many new FLCs, there's so many vacant FLCs, and the same things with our PCs. So that our FLCs, our FSCs, and our PCs will also be getting some supports around their work stream from us moving forward in this school year. And then one last thing before I turn it over to Jesse to tell you a little bit about your specific supports for Cpac from FACE. I want to say that a while ago, I shared with all of you that I wanted to start school visits. Well, this is the time to start school visits. And so before we start school visits, Jesse and I really would love to hear from you what that looks like, what that means, how should we go about it, what schools should we visit, and can you join us? Because that would be really, really helpful and powerful for us, right? We can show up with our little fancy tweet IDs and people will be very excited to see us and show us all the things they want us to see. But there's things that you know better, right? And so we're very much interested in learning what's going on. And if there are family meetings that you're hosting or PTA meetings that are being hosted and you know about and we can show up to, like, we're very, very much interested in doing that. So just know that that's something that we want to calendar sooner rather than later. And we want to go everywhere. So there's 32 districts and we want to go everywhere. So we need to start now. So please, 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 when I send out a little link with like a day and time, and if you know of places, please fill it out. Please click the link and fill it out so that we have places we can go and hopefully you can join us and guide us through your district. We would love to go to more than one school in your district, but if only one works, that's fine too. But we can spend a day wherever you take us. So just know that that's our interest and that we really are looking to you to help us with that. Because if we show up places, it's just not the same. And then with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jesse, who's going to share some of your new supports. Some of your executive board already knows who they are, but I definitely think that Jesse should provide you all with a very sort of comprehensive approach to who is here from FACE and how they're going to be working with you moving forward. So Jesse.
Thank you, Christina. And thank you, everybody. Always a privilege to be on your meeting and the opportunity to see everyone and to be having a conversation about the supports for our students and families throughout the system. As Christina mentioned, we at FACE are going into different workflows. You know, she mentioned the community partnership workflow, the parent mentorship workflow, the homeschool partnership workflow, and obviously we will continue our governance work. And with respect to our governance work, I wanted to take an opportunity today to introduce you to and reintroduce you to two individuals on the FACE team that will be directly supporting the Chances Parent Advisory Council. And I wanted to preface my remarks to say that our relationship with you is, and our partnership with you is a priority. We take it very seriously. We deeply value and respect everyone's dedication to the work. We cannot do this work without you. We do not want to do this work without you. And you will always be our partners in this work, and we will always be your partners in the work. And kind of to echo that, to demonstrate that, we want to ensure that we at FACE, when we are supporting you, we're doing that to the best of our ability. So one of the announcements that I'd like to make, we made it at the executive board meeting, and I'd like to make it to to all of the members of the Chancellor Parent Advisory Council, is that we are very delighted to welcome a new senior director to the FACE team, who will be our senior director of governance, and will be a direct support to the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to Monica Major. And I'd like to say a few words about Monica. Many of you on this call know Ms. Major from her previous role. Monica has a very deep and successful history in education. I had the privilege of meeting Monica many, many years ago when she was the president of Community Education Council 11. And from being, a parent advocate to a leader on a council, she then transitioned to being the Bronx representative to the panel for educational policy. And in each of these roles, both as president and as a member of the Bronx, as a Bronx representative of the panel for educational policy, she definitely served with tremendous honor and dedication. Also, after her service on the panel, Ms. Major served the Bronx Borough President's office under Borough President Diaz as his education director for over 10 years. Definitely, all of our colleagues here in the Bronx definitely know Monica because she was very involved in the work in the Bronx and very active in supporting families. So we were very, very fortunate to be able to have Monica join our team. In conversations with Monica and knowing her experience both as a parent leader and her knowledge of parent leadership structures and her dedication to the work, we thought that there was just no better person to lead our governance work and to be a direct support to the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council, because we want to ensure that Senior Director of Governance is definitely in collaboration and working directly with the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council, who is our essential partner in the work. So I will, in a moment, definitely defer to Monica to say a few words, but I also, before doing that, I also wanted to reintroduce all of you to another colleague who will be supporting the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council, and that's our colleague Anthony Settle. I don't know if Anthony's on the call today. He is out of the office currently, but Anthony Settle has been with FACE probably the longest serving member of FACE. I believe he and Ray Pierre-Louis are the longest serving members of FACE. But Anthony, as many of you know, has been a dedicated a member of FACE, definitely exceedingly knowledgeable about regulation and policy. Many a time in the office over my 11 years that I've been with FACE, I have relied upon Anthony's knowledge and Anthony's institutional knowledge and Anthony's knowledge of the regulations. So it has been an absolute pleasure to have Anthony working with him over the years, and definitely I'm looking forward to Anthony even working more directly with the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council and working with Monica in the service of everyone here. Also wanted to mention, I know that she is on the line. We will come back and definitely introduce all of the members of the governance team, but I definitely wanted to introduce Monica and wanted to introduce Anthony, because they're both will be your direct supports on the council, but also just wanted to take a moment to also acknowledge that Bibi Madiden, who many of you know is a member of the governance team, is an extraordinary member of FACE, tremendous colleague, amazing support, and we'll be working with Monica on the governance team and being able to support our councils and being able to further the work. So without any further ado, I just wanted to, turn it over to Monica to say a few words. But once again, members of the council, we greatly appreciate our partnership with you. We will definitely, as new members of FACE and changes that are happening, we will definitely present those to all of you and speak to you about those. But we're delighted to welcome Monica and Anthony as your direct supports. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Monica, to say a few words.
Thank you, Jesse. And good morning, everyone. Simply put, I am looking forward to working with Cpac. And thank you for all that, Jesse, all that background. And yes, I've been a parent advocate for many, many years. And so I'm looking forward to working with the general group. And I've already spoken with and met with the executive team. So looking forward to it. That's all I could really say. I really am looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Monica. We're delighted to have you on the team, and definitely echo that for Anthony. Continue to have Anthony on the team and continue to have BB on the team. So without any further ado, then I'll take a moment to pause here and pause for any questions that the members may have on anything that Dr. Melendez or myself shared this morning, and be happy to take any questions.
There's two. We're only going to take the two questions that's in the chat.
Okay.
I see Rita Joseph's team is starting to be here. She's here for 11, and we don't see the chancellor. So, so Jessica wants to know what will you lift the vaccine requirement for parents to enter the school buildings?
Not sure.
Sorry about that. We don't have any guidance on that from the health department. So it's not a decision that we sort of make on our own, and they're still contemplating that. That's a hard one because I know out of all the things that we want to know about back to school, I think that's probably like top of the line, right? Like, what are we doing with our kids and the vaccines? What are we doing with our families and the vaccines? I know I want to know for sure because I want to know how or what's going to be the best ways to continue to support our families. So yeah, but there's no answer as of yet.
Dr. Melendez, there is definitely, hi, it's Mark Rampersand, by the way.
Oh, yes.
There is some updated guidance coming our way.
There you go, Mark is
yeah,
here.
Updated guidance coming our way in more than enough time for the start of school. We met with some folks yesterday. We're just waiting for some written guidance from folks at DOH-MH, but there's definitely updated guidance as it relates to vaccines and all safety protocols. So there will be something coming out shortly.
Perfect. This is what happens when the cool people are on the phone.
I'm sorry. I'm going to ask the next question. We do have cool people here. So Bronx High Schools, who are in the team that's training superintendents, principals, FLCs around parent leadership and empowerment? It's a really good question.
Who are
in the team, I guess, the individuals who are on the team who's going to be responsible for training superintendents, principals, FLCs, and parent leadership and empowerment.
So
parent leadership.
They're all different. Those are different groups that are being supported by different folks on the team. So our FLCs and all those folks are being supported by our governance team because that's governance work. The superintendent work is being supported by that homeschool partnerships team, which I don't know if you guys know, but give me just 1 second. We have some educators on our team that have been teachers in the past and I am an educator and I've been a school leader. So I'm sort of leading a lot of that work and the conversation. But I think the other part is that we also have a lot of folks on our team that did a lot of the outreach work around supporting schools and community schools specifically in getting parents to come to the schools. And there's real strategies and structures that they used. It wasn't just like, hey, come here. They actually had like a whole system. And so we've combined some of that thinking with some of the educator sort of mindset, and we have a rubric. It's a lot of that work is being guided by Karen Mapp's work. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's all about family engagement and how the school makes it more welcoming, and that it is the school's job, right? One of her core beliefs is that it is the school's job to make the space more welcoming. And I know that you have, not that I don't want to take another question, but I will be here later. I know that Council Member Rita Joseph is to come. The Chancellor is unable to make it today due to some emergency, but our Deputy Chancellor, Carolyn Quintana, is here, and she would love to just talk a little bit with all of you, if that's okay, Shirley and Randy.
It would have to wait till after, because we have to respect the council member's time. She's at 11 o'clock.
So can she just say hi for 5 minutes? Is that okay?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I just really wanted to pop in and say hi. I don't have much in terms of messaging. Thank you. Appreciate it, Chair Oben. And I love your background. I would love to be in that background right now, somewhere hanging out on a coastal place. But just wanted to say hello and wanted to thank you all for, we were here between January and the end of the school year. I felt incredibly supported by all of the parent communities. And so really appreciated just how much you've all really worked to make sure that our schools are doing and are asking and are pushing in the direction that they need to. And so I'm really excited about the planning that we've been doing over the summer and what we're going to launch into next year. And one of the things that we're planning is to make sure that all of our districts know about what's happening in terms of literacy, what our plan is. So we're going to do panels across the boroughs. And then we are working with one of our partners to talk a little bit more about dyslexia for folks who want to be part of that conversation as well, and just make sure that parents are included in that. And really excited that we'll be launching some advisory councils that include folks from universities and parents and teachers and students for any of the big initiatives that we're launching. So super excited about that. Chair Joseph, great to see you. I will turn my time over. I was just saying hello before you showed up.
Deputy Chancellor Quintana, you could finish your thought. We got 3 minutes.
Oh, all right. Well, I was just saying thank you and sort of sharing what we're working on. But really, really excited about what's to come and would love an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that at some other time. But I know that you've got Chair Joseph in the wings there, and want to make sure that she certainly gets time to connect with you. So great to see everybody. Reach out if you need anything. Christina knows how to get me, and always happy to be part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chancellor Quintana, for coming in to saying hi. And we'll be reaching out because we would like to see you in September's meeting if possible.
Yes, that'd be great. I'd love to. Yeah,
definitely. All right. So Christina and Jesse will get back to you about the details.
Yep. Would love for you to meet my team too. I really want you to meet the team. Great.
Bring everybody.
Yes, all right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So without further ado, we're going to have Rita Joseph, who is our New York City Council member of District 40, and who happens to also be the education chair. She is a fabulous lady, and she's going to have a discussion with us about education. Thank you. So Ms. Joseph, you have the floor. If you need to share your screen, please let me know.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Chair Joseph doesn't have a screen because I'm in transit. As you can see, I'm in the car. I went to visit 2 schools this morning, PS 191 Summer Rising and PS 12, and it was amazing. Always, my favorite place is to be in school buildings, interacting with young people. So that's where I was at. So I'm on my way to City Hall now. So I wanted to thank you, first of all, for the invitation. Thank you so much for all that you do representing parents, fighting on behalf of parents, because this fight is this collaboration and always making sure that education is at the center of our conversation with parents, students, administrators. So all hands on deck for me always. As you know, I've been an educator for 22 years, 7 months in the council. So that means I just left school 7 months ago. So it's still in flesh in my blood, in my heart, and everywhere I go is about schools. So let's begin the conversation. Just keep talking, or
yes, you keep talking. But as people raise their hands, but tell us the plans for for your vision and for the school year for education. What would you like to see happening? Earlier we did have Michael Hickey, the executive director of students in temporary housing, which is one of your passions. along with special education. Tell us what we have planned for in line of that and in education in general.
Oh, wonderful. So, of course, my focus has always been ENL students, students in District 75, students in foster care, students in alternative housing. Those are students who've always been so vulnerable, how they impacted with food insecurity, housing insecurity, lack of access to everything that, students should have. So my vision for the upcoming year is make sure I touch on all those areas. As you may know, we're working on DOE to have a coordinator for students in foster care. That's never been done before. So we're working on that, and also been working with students in temporary housing, make sure they have coordinators, which was something they didn't have enough of. So that was something this council fought for, and make sure that they have it in this budget. Also, yes, I know attendance has always been an issue. We're working on that. Even with foster care, the fact that they did not have a coordinator made it difficult for transportation to be coordinated, care when they went into the system and when they went into school. So that's something that I am also working on. I'm also working on the reimagining of FSF, the way we fund schools, because or else we would be having a budget conversation every year. So we have a commission. The commission is set up already. We met twice already. We are on our third meeting this coming next week. So we're working on not only how we fund schools, how we restore budget, on policies that also affect how we fund schools. So that's also very important to me. So that's one of the things that's very important to me and my colleagues in the council. We also have to work on how do we bring parents back into the system? How do we gain their trust back into believing in New York City public schools? And how do we address that, the enrollment decline? So those are all the things that I'm working on. Those are some of the things that I'll be having hearings on. D75, our adult education, as we educate our students, our younger populations. Families also sometimes look to do career changes, look to upgrade their skills. So I'll be working on adult education as well. What else? I came with notes.
Okay. Well, Randy just sent me the questions that we had sent. So you answered the first one was the plans, the visions, the initiatives for New York City Public Schools. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to go first to this one. Class sizes has been an issue across the city. What will the New York City Council do to ensure the reduction of class size and make sure there is accountability? Well, we know that there was a mandate by the state.
We're waiting for the governors to sign it. That's the governor. It's the governor's the hold up right now. It's not us. We're supportive of it. It was in the council, but then went to the state. So we're waiting for the governor to sign on that bill. It would be transformative. I remember first year teaching, I would have 35 to 40 students into a classroom. And that was one of the secrets in New York City. So we're looking to see that. I've always said, no matter how brilliant an educator is, how dedicated she is, but with 40 students in front of them, someone is going to get lost in the crack, and we don't want that to happen. So with smaller class sizes, instructional and more individualized focus on students, important to us, myself, and also my colleagues also.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask two questions because they're kind of related. That was sent.
Sure.
Will you ensure all funds are allocated to New York City public schools, are only used for New York City public schools? And then will there be more funding to be provided to ensure all New York City public schools receive the resources and supports they need for our children to receive a high quality education? I know right now these questions were asked before, the back and forth that's happening right now. Do you mind touching on it a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Well, charter schools, it's not a city. So now we need to work in partnership with our state. How charter schools are funded is a state regulations. Charter schools get their mandates, their charter to operate in New York City public schools is a state, not a city. But as a body, we can always work with our state partners to make sure that we're getting adequate funding. And that's why I said we need to reimagine this formula that's been in place for over 20 years. We've lived through a pandemic, so how we fund school is going to be very important. So that's why it's also threefold for me. Restore the funding, but also work on policy. on policies that change how we fund schools. So FSF will be the city part, and then we also need to work with our state partners on foundational aid on how we fund schools on the state level as well. So this is a threefold: work with restoring budgets, one, work on FSF, and three, work with our state partners to also look at how we fund schools on the state level.
Awesome.
And of course, make sure our schools have all the resources. So that comes through policy as well, making sure that our schools have resources for them to thrive. Want to make sure all of my kids are doing art. All of my kids are in theater. All of my kids are doing music. I knew how important music was to me when I went to PS 139, when I went to Ditmas Middle School. I knew how music was. Miss Bradford, I remember her name till today, from middle school. So Miss Bradford taught me how to write music. She taught me how to sing. She taught me I was in chorus. So I remember all of that. Alexine Fenty was my music teacher at PS 139. We loved her so much, they renamed the school after her. So I know how important these things are. And like I said, I left the classrooms 7 months ago. So these things are still in my heart and still in my heart, and making sure that I fight to make sure that New York City children have access to that.
Thank you. I'm gonna one of the topics that's always been big year after year is transportation. The need for more funding, a new contract, dedicated busing for middle schools and high school students, whether it's through OPT or through the MTA, especially for high school, to increase the dedicated buses just to drop them off to schools. You know, there's certain lines that are already doing it, but we need even more, especially still, you know, we technically still in a pandemic. So, so avoid minimizing being in an overcrowded bus. So that's what we're looking at overall of OPT in their contracts. So I'm going to stop talking and let you talk about transportation for our students, especially.
Absolutely. That's a conversation I started the day I got into the council. Transportation, because I've been around and I've seen what transportation is, and I would love for them to reimagine. I would love to revamp DOE as well. So look in all the possible ways that we can work, alleviate certain barriers that are placed on transportation along with students. For example, when I talked about foster care students, they're not entitled to transportation. They're given a Metro card and that's it, no matter how old they are. And sometimes the agencies have in order to provide transportation. So that's why if you look at students in foster care, they have the highest rates of absenteeism. So because when they're placed in a home, they don't have transportation. And not everyone and everybody knows my story. I was a foster parent who adopted my two boys. They didn't have transportation, but luckily I had access to make sure they get where they were going. But not everybody needs that. If I open up my home, I may not have the extra funds to provide private transportation. So that was been one of my conversation at the table, and also working in partnership with parents. You guys are my ears and eyes on the ground sometimes. And it's also great to work with you guys to say, hey, council member, this is not working. What can we do about it? This is a we. New York City Public Schools is a we. It's a we, not a council member Joseph only. I want partnerships. I want to hear your voices. Let them know whether they're good or bad. Whether you yell at me, I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't mind. That's what I told all of my advocates. I was like, do what you have to do while you trust me enough to be at the table to be your voice. But you do your part on the outside. And so, you know, that's something that I've been working on as well. Transportation, meeting with them, and everything to me needs to be revised, looked at again and double changed. None of us have been in a pandemic. So how we usually do business in New York City, and especially with our New York City children, should also be looked at as well. It can't be business as usual.
Thank you. We're going to go to safety issues. We do have Mark Represent here, but we want to take your take on what the city council on the violence around school buildings and public transportation, especially in regards to shootings.
Safety issues, that's something I've been talking about as well, inside and outside, looking at restorative justice, looking at how we view our students differently. Maybe this is not where we all need to bring in. Restorative justice is very important to me. That's something I'm working on big time with the DOE on restorative justice. Giving kids second chance, having them have accountability and responsibility, and working to make sure that what is triggering the violence. It has to be something. When we know that we saw that violence, what's causing these causes, we also have to find the root of the problem. And we have to apply measures that will also alleviate these issues as well.
Oh, thank you.
And working with other stakeholders. Absolutely.
I just want to say when Rita, Councilmember Joseph, it says she wants true partnership. It's true. We didn't get to that part of the slide, but I just wanted to let you know that she takes Cpac very seriously, and she recognized that, you know, we do represent New York City students, all their students and their families, and she has us at the table as one of the advocacy groups to talk about our education. We met in the month of July to strategize and to the issues, and particularly at that point the main focus was the budget cuts to education, but she's also strategizing on the very points that she's bringing out right now. She is getting everybody at the table and really want to hear from the families of New York City when it comes to education. So please, we asked earlier, any questions, concerns, suggestions. It don't always have to be negative. We want positive feedback as well. What is being done right? What can be done better? So when we come to these tables, we want to come to the table with solutions, suggestions, and be helpful. And, you know, not just with complaints and what's not working. I think most of us know what's not working. It's better for us. We work together to come to solutions, because it usually takes all of us to come to a effective and equitable solution for problems that we come up with when it comes to education and New York City.
I just want to add on one thing. One of the things the council did, we invested a lot in young people. We invested over $700 million in young people in program SYE, and we have to say, you know what, add more. So when we came in, we found that Earn and Grow is one of the programs I'm really in love with, because it allows students to work year-round after school in high schools. And we found it at 2,200 seats, and we were like, no, let's double it up. Let's find something for the young people to do after school. We were able to invest in CTE programs. We were able to invest in Fair Futures. Fair Futures, foster care usually students off at 21. This one continued to support students up until the age of 26. And when we looked, it's usually those students in foster care that are unhoused, more likely to be suspended, more likely to be in a lot of trouble, suspension. So we're looking for different ways to make sure that we are supporting young people. When we say we want to invest in young people, and we're really investing in young people.
Thank you. You know, we were really excited.
Oh my.
Yeah, we are really excited. I'm gonna ask any comments, any questions from members, council members. We got Rita Joseph in the house. Let's talk to her.
Yeah, no shyness. You can't be shy.
Okay, here we go. Brooklyn High Schools, Ms. Green.
Good morning, Councilmember Joseph.
Good morning, Ms. Green.
Welcome to Cpac. As a fellow Brooklynite, I'm happy that you've gotten elected. I wanted to know, what was the name of the program, because I kind of missed it, for the students who were over age, you know, that goes up to 26?
Fair Futures.
Fair Futures, okay.
Support school, jobs, counseling, and or wherever the foster care agency drops off, we pick up. So we invested in that.
Okay, well, thank you. And all right, do you have any other information about the program that perhaps you could send to Cpac at some point?
Oh, sure. Sam, my chief of staff, is on there. We will definitely send it out. Sam, you should have an email address. Send it over to Cpac. We'll send as much youth, school students, education stuff as we find them. We'll send them to you. And also, we usually put out a weekly newsletter with all the information on there. So what we'll do is we'll send everything out to you on a weekly basis.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. Now we have District 17, Ms. Clark.
Oh, no.
Good morning. Thank you, Shirley, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Ms. Joseph, for being in our circle. There is a problem that is going on now, and I'm not sure if everyone is aware of it. And I know it's not only in 17, the CBOs that are providing service for our kids for the summer. It is so disgusting. I mean, the way they treat our kids, even the workers, because, most of the workers are students themselves. And, I've went as far as into Bed-Stuy to see how they are running their CBO. And it's like everywhere you go, you have some, one of the stuff I heard, a worker said, well, I think she would have been the supervisor. I hate to deal with ratchet and poor kids. And I could not believe I'm hearing this out of a worker's mouth in front of the kids. So I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention about the CBOs who are serving our kids and in our school, for us to be aware and to see how we can move forward and how best support them moving forward for our new school year. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. One of the things we did before Summarizing would launch, we had a meeting with Summarizing. We called out on certain issues that we chair as the youth service chair, which is council member Althea Stevens. So we are going to do a wrap-up meeting with Summarizing to let them know the grows and glows, what went well, what didn't go well, and what we need to work on. So, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. That will be something that's on my list as we continue to work with DOE as we roll out next year to be even better. So we will definitely bring that up in the conversations that we do have with DOE.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to shout out, comments, questions? We have a council member, our education chair is here. Okay, so we have Jessica Zillow, District 28. Jessica.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to tap into the Summarizing question because in our district, they used an old model where 10 elementary schools fed into one elementary school, and that did not work in our district. So if you're looking at the Summarizing models, maybe that there could be a different way to sort of look at it. But it was very unfortunate because in our district on one side, it filled in with like 5 minutes. And so there was a scarcity model on one side of the district. And so that tends to happen a lot. So my understanding was they used an old model for projections for the seats that were needed. And I don't think that was the correct way to utilize it.
Okay, even though we increased the seats. Yeah, we increased the seats to 110,000 seats, and that was in partnership with the DOE and the council. So we definitely will look at that. I'll note that, and that will be one of our discussions when we plan for next year.
Thank you.
You got it. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
So
You're very welcome.
We got District 9.
District 9's in the house.
Gladys Gomez, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good morning, council member. Sorry.
Good morning.
I wrote down my questions so I wouldn't forget. What is the conversation regarding the redistricting that will affect many neighborhoods and the schools that reside in these districts? Furthermore, what is the plan to continue work that has begun already with schools and council members should they not be in their district anymore? There is concern because social media is everything these days, right? And we're seeing that some prefer a certain type of school over DOE school. And we're feeling that it's not, it's going to be a lot of work to go ahead and try to get them involved and interested in what's going on in our neighborhood schools. Thank you.
You're very welcome. One of the most powerful things you can do about redistricting is testify. They allow the public to testify in how you would like your neighborhood to look. Get involved, raise your voice. That's one powerful things that parents have and advocates have and educators and administrators. Raise your voice. You can submit it online or you can go in person and say, hey, I wouldn't want my school to be cut up, my districts to be cut up because of the following reasons. So I know they have upcoming hearings. I don't have it. Sam, if you have it, you can drop the hearing dates into the chat for the parents. That would be great. Oh, Sam dropped it already. And look at your maps and see where your schools are at and make sure that you're testifying. Encourage each other. One parent, bring 5. Make it a coalition to build to raise your voice and how they cut up our district.
And now we have Leonard Silverman, who's from District 2.
Hi, District 2.
Hi, Ms. Joseph, Councilmember Joseph. I got a question for you, and I apologize because I missed the first part of your presentation. So if it was asked, I hope everyone will forgive me. In light of the recent increase in numbers of migrants, or I guess I'd say undocumented, I don't know what the language is these days.
Asylum seekers.
Asylum seekers
Yeah.
to New York. I want to make sure I'm using the right terminology here. What is your department, or what are we doing to make sure that those people are settled with regard to education in New York City? In other words, finding them the resources, placing them in schools. Has there been a discussion about this, where they're going, what additional resources might be needed, what supports, IEPs, how do they get into schools, and is that affecting resources that are being strained, and how is that working?
One of the things that we're doing, as a matter of fact, I had a conversation this morning with a CBO partner. First, I'm talking to the commissioner to find out where they were placed, how many of them. Sorry, I'm in the street now. How many of them, and where they are. First of all, we need to find out where all of them are. Some of them were placed in hotels. So we're looking at the numbers to find out where these families were placed. And once we know where they were placed, we're able to work with them to register to them schools. They get to register for free. They for everything, and making sure that they're also in community schools. Community schools find resources. Community schools were up for cuts. This council was able to restore the cuts and added 9 more. We added 10 more community schools, so altogether there'll be 62. So that's what we're doing in terms of resources. And we're doing the outreach. We're building it up. I know school is around the corner, so I'm scrambling. I'm working with restoring budget, but I'm also working with how we place the students and their families.
Can I just ask you, just to follow up, do you have any recent numbers, especially in light of what's been going on with Texas? Do you have any recent numbers, let's say within the last month or two, how many people we're talking about?
From what I understood, from May till now, it's 4,000.
But I mean, in terms of students, like my potential students.
I don't have the breakdown, but in general, I have 4,000. So that's the numbers I'm waiting for. I requested them this morning.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Now we're going to hear from Bronx High School, Lotus.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And thank you, Councilmember Rita Joseph, for joining us. In lieu of the question that Leonard just brought up, it kind of like, I'm going to piggyback off from that to embellish on what was said before in regards to class size, right? So we're talking about a 4,000 in general people that are coming in, that had just come into New York. We don't know how many students would that be. We know that budgets right now are, all over the place. Teacher shortage is big everywhere. What are the thoughts around alleviating all those issues? In order to minimize class size, you need more students, more teachers, and we need more money as well, right? So what are the thoughts around how are they planning on doing any of those changes or implementing any of those things when there is a lack of space for additional classrooms, since a lot of our schools are co-located, and there is a shortage of qualifying teachers, whether it's for special ed or
bilingual, ESL.
Exactly. How are we planning on making that mandate a possibility?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, don't forget, since we're working on that formula, schools are based on enrollment. So if enrollment goes up, your budget will go up. You'll have more money to work with students. That was a conversation I had yesterday with the chancellor in terms of what are we looking like in New York City in terms of teacher shortage. So that's the answer they're going to get back to me. I did ask that question yesterday. It was very important. I was in a meeting with them and I asked that question. What does teacher shortage look like? Class size mandate, how does that come into play? Those are questions I was asking. So I'm waiting for the answers as well. So we can know how do we move with our new influx of students coming from these Texas borders. So that's something I'm working on diligently. The minute I get the answer, I will gladly share with Cpac.
Thank you.
Thank
Now we have, thank you. District 5, Aisha Irving, you have the floor.
Hi, sorry about that. Thank you so much. I wanted to know about the literacy. I know we're supposed to be moving the whole system basically to a phonics-based literacy, but what are we doing more so to get our pre-K to 2 more prepared so that when they get to 3rd grade, that they are on level? And then what are we doing more so for our 3rd through 12, so that, especially our 12th graders too, so that when they get to college, they are more college and career ready? So across the board, what are we doing for our children that they are more prepared and are able to read, you know, and ready to hit the world when they get to, you know, to that stage? Because they are our future. And if we're not investing in them, then what really are we doing?
Absolutely, 100%. I agree, 100%. I know they're investing in new literacy curriculums, which I'm in deep conversation with Deputy Chancellor Cantana. She's very, very involved in that, phonics based, and also don't forget the dyslexia screening is also going to be very helpful. Once we can screen, you can provide your interventions, do your assessments, and that data will also drive how you teach moving forward. So I know those investments are being made. Once I get further details, and I'm sure Deputy Chancellor Cantana can also add more to that, we will definitely share with what's going on with that. And absolutely, the students are now, we say the future, they are now, they're growing up. Our high school students are going to college, they're voters, they're all of that. So they're now. So we have to invest in them now so that they prepare a better future for us, because we're getting older. So I must make sure that the next generation of students and leaders that are coming up have the tools in their toolbox to make sure that they thrive in this world. And when they enter college, they're not taking remedial courses. And I 100% agree with that. If it needs extra tutoring, if extra support, that should also be provided.
Thank you. So now we have District 4, Rashida Brown Harris, which will be followed by District 25, Francis Gonzalez.
Thank you, Co-Chair Avon. Thank you. Hi, City Council Member Joseph. Welcome and congrats on your title and position at the council as chair. So excited to have you here in this space with Cpac parent leaders. May I ask you, as a Ed Committee Chair, what you and your committee and the council are doing to support the efforts for CRSE in our schools for culturally responsive education?
Oh, that conversation. I know the parents came to me after the curriculum, a mosaic curriculum that I should be having a conversation with. So we want to know when we're going to launch. And that's important because I noticed that when there was something, we invested in a Black curriculum as well. We invested money in that. So it's just a matter of when they're going to roll it out. So I will make sure. You're frozen. Okay.
No.
Okay. I was. Yeah. So I want to make sure that the rollout. So it's a conversation that I'm having. When the rollout, I want it to be a great rollout. I don't want it to just be there and teachers, you know how certain subjects are added at the end, sometimes it never gets taught because it's just there. That's not what I want to do with this culturally responsive. And that was something I've been calling ever since I was an educator. Because the books I used to teach when I was like, my students don't look nothing like these kids in these books. They have to see themselves in these stories that we tell. They have to see, I need to see people that look like us as well. So I'm with you on the same page. If it's for that, I'm there with you 100%. So that's another conversation I'm having with the DOE now. When is the rollout? What does that look like? And how does it fit into our current curriculum?
Yeah, a lot of the groundwork was already done with the mosaic curriculum. So we don't want to lose it.
Yeah, we don't want to lose it, but I want it to be rolled out correctly as well. I don't want it to just be an afterthought.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rashida. We're going to now have Francis, and Francis is going to be the last question or comment that she'll have, because Mr. Mark Represent has been very patient, and he's up next. So Francis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Councilman Joseph. I have a question. I just want to know who's in charge of making sure that these regions for our kids is equitable, because a lot of, like they mentioned before, class size affects, a lot of kids get lost. I know waivers were put in place, but, waivers don't really ensure that our kids know this information. You know what I mean? And so my question is, who is checking to make sure that these tests are equitable for everyone? Because there are kids who are struggling. There are kids who are getting tutoring in school and taking free test prep and still failing the regions. And so it leads me to believe, who is supporting these kids, these teachers, or need to identify these kids who are failing and support them. And we need to make sure there's kids in honors that still didn't do well in the region. So I just want to make sure that it's equitable for, and it is a basic knowledge and not something that isn't.
I agree 100%. And I was seeing the data. So I said that was something I need to talk to the commissioner and the superintendent for regions, which is a state. So I wanted to, when I saw the data and I saw the report, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. So this is a conversation I'll be having soon, around before the end of the month, around what are we doing with regions? How do we support the students to make sure that they're doing well and the information is related? Sometimes I look at the regions and I'm like, oh, this has had nothing to do with what these kids learned. So it has to also coincide with what students are learning as well.
Awesome. Councilmember Joseph, it's always a pleasure. And we know this is not going to be their first and last time being with us, definitely. So we're going to look forward to more conversations between us and our council members. And we thank you for taking the time out with us this during the summer for our August meeting. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to conversations. Yeah, tell them, whoever that is, that we sent out.
That was Councilmember Narcisse.
So thank you so much again, and we'll be in contact. We have Jan Adderwell, who is the liaison here as well, and we'll contact you through her and yourself directly as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me on. And again, I'm here as a resource, a partner, ally. No problem is too small or too big. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So at this time, we are scheduled to have Mr. Mark Rampison to talk about safety concerns, but we also have our chancellor here as well. Chancellor David C. Banks is here as well. He has joined us. So Mr. Rampison or Ms. Chancellor, yeah, work it out. I see you're going to work it. Look at the beautiful artwork behind your.
Student artwork.
It's student artworks. Recognize it. So you have the
Marshall Lower Academy School in Harlem. That's right. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning, Chancellor.
I know Mark. Is Mark on, by the way?
Yes, he's been on since like the very beginning of the meeting. Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yep. So I'm not going to be too long. I just wanted to say hello. Mark is getting ready to share with you some thoughts around school safety. He and I have been talking about this now for a while. We're going to plan a major announcement as we get closer to the beginning of the school year. Safety is the most important issue. First of all, you can't teach kids if they're not safe. And so looking forward to you all hearing from Mark on that. But I think overall, I would just say this, a couple of things. One, I think we've had a great summer, the Summer Rising program, and we should all be very appreciative of that. I know I am. Over 100,000 students who have been engaged all summer in not only academic programming, but a lot of fun activities as well. And things that keep them off the streets, keep them engaged, positive activities, so that they're not wasting time and wasting the whole summer away. So it was the largest Summer Rising program that we've ever had. The mayor made a major investment in it, and I'm just thrilled about that. And so, and then as we shift now to the beginning of the next school year, you should know that there's been a lot of time, effort, and energy that's gone into planning, and we fully expect that we are going to have a very, very solid, smooth opening to our school year. So I'm excited about that. Not only the first day of school, the first week of school, the first month of school, just got off the phone a little while ago with Robert Smith, billionaire, richest Black man in the country. There's going to be a big announcement that he's going to make on behalf of, together with the mayor, on behalf of school teachers around the city. So you all stay tuned. That'll happen during the first week of the school year as well. Some of what I think Mark Rampersand is going to share with you, we've engaged well over 100 different community-based organizations, lots of folks of color in particular, who are going to be doing work in a lot of our schools that have some of the biggest challenges. And they're going to be mentoring young people and really being there to be a real support. So we've actually been working on this since before I even started as chancellor. We've been organizing these groups. They've been meeting on Saturdays. It's been a lot of effort that has gone into it. And so again, you'll be hearing about this as well. There are a lot of things we're going to be announcing. So we've just been behind the scenes, doing the preparation, doing the things that we need to do to try and get ready. Listen, the elephant in the room is always around the issues around the budget, right? And so there's a PEP meeting that's happening tonight as well. Many of you know there was a court case that was in fact brought by several plaintiffs, essentially saying to restore all the cuts that had been put in place. It was appealed, and right now we're kind of in a holding motion on that. We'll see what the judge says. The case is being heard at the end of this month, and then hopefully soon after we'll have a decision, and we'll know what needs to happen. You should just know none of us like to have any cuts or anything like that, but the position of the mayor has been that we are right-sizing the budget, that there are schools that lost students, they got lower budget. We have students who got more kids, they got a higher budget. We don't want anybody to have to lose any funds. But, you know, this sometimes is part of the fiscal reality that we deal with. My friend and colleague, Rita Joseph, I see just spoke, and she's on, chair of the Education Committee. Nobody fights harder on behalf of kids and teachers than she does. I would want her to be on my side on any fight. She's a fierce advocate. As is all the folks in the city council, including my good friend, the speaker of the council, Adrian Adams. And sometimes you have to do battle. But I think we all love our kids. We're all doing the best thing that we can possibly do. But I do think that it is important that we do know that this stimulus money that we got from the federal government is slowly winding down. It's not going to be there forever. We got another solid year of having stimulus funds. And then after that, we're going to be faced with very serious fiscal realities. And even if you think right now is tough with some of the cuts that have happened, that's nothing compared to what potentially is coming. It really is not. We were very fortunate that stimulus funding came in, because that allowed us to cover a lot of issues. I don't think we're going to get another round of stimulus funds. So we have to make decisions as though that's not coming. And if it's not coming, there's some real tight decisions that have to be made. And so they're not easy decisions. They're certainly not ones that I look forward to making. We want all of our schools to have everything that they deserve. It's one of the reasons why we have this working group right now that's even looking at the formula for how we even fund schools in the first place. So, and I've heard the argument that people have made that said, forget the fact that we're losing students. Even if we weren't losing students, we still don't have enough money in our schools to have all the things that we have: after school programming, art, music, technology, libraries. To have all of that, we have to fight for even more money. So the battle is on. We continue to fight. But in the meantime, as the chancellor, I've been appointed to make sure that in spite of the challenges, the schools open and that they open well. And that's what I'm doing. And if we wind up in a better situation with more funds, God bless, I'm ready for it. But I have to, as they say, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to be a responsible leader, to be ready to do what I can do. In the meantime, we'll continue to have conversations with the powers that be and to see if there's something that can be worked out and hope for the best. So that's where we are. That's kind of my comments. I'd love to hear a few questions before we turn to Mark Rampersant, who will give you a good overview on the budget. I mean, on the safety, not on the budget. I want to put you in the middle of that, Mark.
Yeah. I don't want none of that smoke.
We have Leonard Silverman from District 2.
Hi, Chancellor. Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Chancellor Banks, the numbers came out about students matched to their high school choices in the city, and my district, District 2, had the lowest percentage of matches, with only 82% getting their first 1 through 12 school choices. Other districts, districts 20, looks like 21, 22, and 25 also are in the 80% range. Is there anything you could tell us, any update about what's being done to help the students that didn't get any of their matches right now before the school term starts in September?
Again, these are tough choices. You know, when you have a limited number of schools that everybody wants to go to, it mathematically it says everybody's not going to get in. If you have a school that has room for 100 kids coming in a school year, and you have 1,000 kids that applied, a lot of kids are not going to get in. Most kids are not going to get in. What I have to do, so there's probably not a lot that's going to happen between now and the next couple of weeks when we open up school. I'm getting ready to do a briefing with our enrollment people as soon as I jump off of here, as we're trying to make plans for next school year. And I will tell you that one of the challenges that we have, one of the things I'm trying to address, is we've got lots of kids that don't even live in some of these districts that you're talking about, who are applying from out of the district to try to get into those schools, because those are seen as the high quality schools. And I want to ensure that we can build more high quality schools and develop more high quality programming in these other districts. I'll give you an example. I grew up in District 29 in Southeast Queens. And most of the top students in District 29 did not go to high school or middle school even in District 29. Everybody was leaving to go to these other districts that you just named, because our parents heard that that's where the good schools are. And I'm saying, why aren't we building high quality schools in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, in Southeast Queens? So those families in those districts have better choices. That's the reason why everybody's flooding into these other districts, then making it hard for those kids to actually get into even their own neighborhood schools. So that's what I'm very focused on right now. It won't happen for this September. This stuff takes a little while to build it. But certainly by next September, you're going to see much more robust programming, that we're going to market those programs and everything else in other districts, so that, you know, like Eric Adams, when he was a kid, his mother sent him to Bayside, Queens. He didn't live in Bayside, but everybody knew Bayside High School was a really good school. It still is. And people would leave their neighborhoods and come from all over to go to Bayside. I went to Hillcrest High School. That wasn't in my neighborhood. I should have gone to Andrew Jackson. It was 2 blocks from where I lived. But my parents say, you're not going to Jackson. It's not a good school. And that's what a lot of parents say. So they fight like heck, and I don't blame them, to get into these other places. But if you build good quality schools where they live, the kids there will go to those schools, and you'll decrease the overcrowding that's happening in some of these other places as well. So that's the work that I'm engaged in and invested in, and that's what I believe in. And those are going to take investments as well to even build, to do those things. So we have a lot of choices to make here. I'm going to give you one other example of something that many of you may, or some of you may know, but many of you may not even be aware of. I'm trying to figure out how we save some more of the money that we already have. Forget about the outside of these cuts that we're talking about. You know, we spend well over $1 billion a year on special education, and it's for parents who are sending their kids to private school, and we are paying for that. So what does that mean? That means if you, by law, if you have a child who has some special needs designation, we are supposed to provide services for those children. And if we can't, by law, if a parent now has to be told, okay, you can go to a private school and we will pay for that. Over the last couple of years, the amount of parents who have now taken full advantage of that to get a private school education paid for by the DOE is blown completely out the water. We went from spending $300 million a year to now $1.2 billion a year. For many of these, this is like an open secret that a lot of people don't know about and don't talk about. A lot of these parents are parents who never intended to send their kids to our schools. They were always going to send their kids to a private school. They make application to the DOE and are told, we don't have the services for you. And they say, thank you very much. Now I want you to pay for me to send my child to the private school. They were never coming to the DOE in the first place, but they figured out the way that the law is written. All I have to do is apply. They don't have the service. They now going to pay for me to send my child to a top tier private school. That's what's happening. If I could close that spigot, it's like it's a big sign that says the DOE is giving away free money. If we can close that, you're talking about probably $800, $900 million a year that we would be saving, close to $1 billion. Guess what? We wouldn't be having this fight about budget cuts and the rest of that. We'd be able to pay for all of our after-school programming, all of those kinds of things. This is money that's going out the back door every single day. That's the stuff that I'm going to need all of you working with me to help to figure out how do we close that? Because folks have figured out how to game this system and nobody even talks about this. And it's all of this money that is meant for the kids in our public schools are going to private schools. They've got whole vendors who've created a whole way now to figure out how to do this. So parents are going to these vendors. These vendors figured out how to make the application, know that they're not going to get in, and say, that's fine, just send us the check. 2 years ago, we spent $300 million a year on it. Now it's $1.2 billion that we're spending. Think about that. That's the stuff that I'm trying to figure out and how to deal with. Because if I can close that, that'll help solve a lot of the issues and problems that we have right now. So members of the advisory council, Chair Joseph, right? Like that's a place that we can agree to sit down and figure out how to close that gap, how to turn that spigot off. Because it's people lined up saying they're giving out free money at the DOE. And yet we are fighting with each other about a $300 million budget gap. And meanwhile, we got $1.2 billion walking out the door every day. So anyway, to be continued, this is a righteous cause that we should be focused on. It would solve a lot of the issues and problems that we're dealing with even right now. And we're going to be coming back to this to deal with it. Okay.
Chancellor Banks,
yes.
Before you go, I just want to clarify Leonard's, because we're going to have a discussion about emissions in October. I think that would be the appropriate month to go into emissions. But Leonard was hinting at, I feel, that this is the first year that there's a high percentage of students not getting into one of their 12 choices. Usually it's the opposite. There's only a few don't get don't fit into, did not get one of those 12 choices. So I think going forward, I think we want to know how the admission policies is going to be shaped up for the next admission coming in. I know that is it was because of the pandemic, new administration, etc. But going forward, we need to make sure it's a minute number not getting in any of those 12 schools.
Well, wait a minute, hold on a second. Wait a second. Those numbers, I'm gonna double check those with my folks when they come in a second. Those percentages that you gave me, I believe are for kids who didn't get into their top choice. You're saying it's for kids who didn't get into any of their 12 choices?
There's an increased number of disadmissions. Mary Leonard was talking about, I think Leonard said specifically 12, but it's been a huge increase that a lot of students didn't get anything that they pick. And that's
out of all 12 choices, they didn't get
out of all 12 choices. I have the breakdown by district.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna get the briefing right now with my folks. They're coming in a couple of minutes. I'll get that briefing on that. Let's double back on that. That could be on the agenda for our next meeting.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
So parents are hurting and they're looking for help.
Oh yeah. Listen, first of all, if a parent If a child gets into their ninth choice, that's not generally what they're looking for, right? Kids usually have 1 or 2 or 3 choices that they really want to get into. Once you start getting into your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th choice, that's not even usually what you're looking for. You're just kind of filling out the rest of the paper. You're saying they're not getting into any of 12 choices? I'm going to look at that because I'm not, that has not been brought to my attention just yet, but I'll get a briefing on that. And because if we've lost so many students, mathematically, I don't understand why it would be that the number of kids not even getting their choices into any school has gone up dramatically while we've lost 70,000 kids in the last 2 years. It almost doesn't even make sense to me, but I'll find out. And then let's make that our priority for the next meeting. Sound good?
Yep, awesome. Thank you, sir.
And if many of you are going to join the PEP tonight, I'll see you there.
Yep.
Blessings to everybody. And if I don't see you again or talk to you again, please have a great rest of the summer and be safe.
You too, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity before you talk to you a little bit about safety in the upcoming school year. And as the chancellor just briefly spoke to, we are intentional about the way by which we open schools this year. We've heard from various CECs who've passed resolutions asking for, says I have feedback. Can you guys hear me clearly?
You do have a little feedback coming, a little scratchy.
Someone put in the, all right. Can you hear me better? This is the technology that the $34 billion, operation has. Nothing I can do about that. This is the gift I've been given. So I'm hoping that you're able to hear me a little clearer. I will try to speak a little louder. I'm in an office with others in cubicles, and I don't want to disturb others while they're working. So as the chancellor stated, we are approaching safety and security in our schools a little differently this year as we start to prepare for our opening. We are aggressively working with each and every one of our schools throughout the city to make sure that everybody is ready for a smooth opening and a safe opening. Some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about are a little premature in our share out because I don't want to take the wind out of our sails as it relates to the opening day announcement that the chancellor wants to make, sharing the robust safety plan for our schools. So I'm gonna briefly touch on a few things. I'm gonna hold all of you to full secrecy, and you should act excited when you hear, some of the things that we're going to be unveiling when the chancellor does share. But we took some time and we heard from various CECs, met with various CECs around recommendations for safety and security. We did have an opportunity to receive a number of resolutions, and the interesting thing is there were almost 100% similarity for every one of the resolutions, and they talked about the request for more school safety agents. They talked about door locking systems, cameras for schools, and emergency readiness training for school staff, and notification to parents, real-time notification to parents. And some of those are the things that we've been working on for this entire summer. We've met with triple-digit numbers of vendors around different safety enhancements and applications that they recommend that we use to fortify our safety in our schools. So some of the things that I'm going to briefly share with you is we heard you loud and clear, especially for our elementary school parents, when you said, please lock the front door. Please lock the front door. So we've met with various vendors, and we believe that we have a prototype that we are introducing to our schools as we write new policy regarding what it looks like to actually lock the front doors. So it's easy for the DOE to say lock the front doors, but we thought fitting to bring in our first responders who are going to tell us some of the reasons why you would, could, or can't lock the front door of your school. And for the FDNY, some of their concerns is we need to get into that building if something happens, and anything that stops us from moving into the building delays our ability to provide aid to the person who requires aid. The NYPD shared the same thing. If there's an active shooter situation in the school and we can't get in, the longer it takes us to get in, the more damage can be done. So we heard from them, and we worked with a vendor that we believe is provided a product that will be helpful in us meeting not only the requests and I should say demands of our parents, but also that will give us the ability to ensure safety and security in our schools. So you're going to hear more about that as we get to the closer to the start of school. I don't want to, take away the chancellor's ability to share exciting news. We heard from parents around notification and the time frame by which you get notified by your schools when something like a lockdown, sheltering, or an evacuation transpires, or there's a shooting in the neighborhood and the school took a GRP action. We heard you when you said principals need to do a better job of making notification. So internally, we created an application that's going to allow for parents to receive real-time notification that will be sent right from a principal's cell phone. This application will even have the ability to allow the chancellor to send each and every one of you a message anytime he needs to. A message that says school is closed for today. Today is a snow day. As opposed to you waiting to get it from the news, Notify NYC, or other citizens' applications, it'll allow the chancellor to send real-time notification, and we'll get into more detail about what that looks like. But it's important that you help us register as many parents as you possibly can for NICSA, because that's the way by which they're going to receive that real-time notification. So we're going to tap into all of your resources as you continue to make your way about the city and through the districts and through the schools to get as many parents as we possibly can to sign up for NICSA. Training our principals in emergency readiness is on the forefront of the minds of not only our first responders, but our chancellor, our mayor, and other elected stakeholders. We need to make sure that every one of our school is trained in person. And as you know, that during the pandemic, we had to go to virtual trainings and we couldn't have in-person meetings. Well, this chancellor is not accepting anything other than in-person meetings with our partners in the NYPD, Counterterrorism Unit, School Safety Division, and Louisiana State University, who is leading the charge on emergency preparedness for the country. And we are now inviting our instructional leaders as well, other school staff, to participate in day-long training that's being hosted by the NYPD as we prepare for our opening of school. Every school safety agent is being retrained in emergency readiness, and every staff person as well. One more thing that I'll share before I open up for questions is we did hear the parents' concerns around more school safety agents in schools. And we are happy to say that after a long pandemic and no classes of school safety agents, this is the second class of school safety agents that are graduating right in time for the start of school. There are 200 school safety agents being graduating on the 30th of this month, and the day after graduation, another 250 school safety agents are going into the academy. As you may or may not know, the Academy is 17 weeks of training before school safety agents actually make their way into our schools. And we're happy that we are going to have an additional 200 agents that's going to add, or should I say, plug the holes of the current shortfalls that we're having of school safety agents, and the continued classes and advocacy on the part of not only the City Council, but the Chancellor to make this come to fruition brings real excitement to our principals. The Chancellor briefly talked about community-based organizations that he and the rest of the team have been engaging long before he got here to the Department of Education. And those folks are working in our communities for free, many of them, trying to interrupt the violence that's happening in our communities, ensuring safety and security for our young people. And we thought fitting, why would we not employ these folks and bring them into our schools to help us ensure the safety and security for our students, staff, and our visitors. The shootings that have occurred on the outside of schools, in neighborhoods in close proximity to schools, these are the very people who are called upon by the NYPD and others to ascertain information regarding the gang wars that are happening to try and interrupt that before sort of a part two happens in a school. And so we're working aggressively with these vendors to have them unveiled, the project unveiled in time for the fall the fall of this year to get these folks working in collaboration with our school safety agents, our school staff, and our community stakeholders. As the chancellor stated, and I reiterate on every meeting, the safety and security of our young people is all of our collective responsibilities. We'll continue to liken that comment to "It takes a village." Well, the schools are not absent the village. The merchants, faith-based organizations, and our parents and our communities. So I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share briefly what we are announcing and doing for the start of the school year. But it would be great as we get closer to have your continued partnership as we ensure safety and security in our schools.
Thank you. So before I open the floor for questions, one, Cpac members, after we still have important information to share. So we're gonna go back to that. Two, I'm gonna make the comment for our members, because I know it's gonna come up. So Cpac, which is the Chancellor Parent Advisory Council, is made up of 38 President's Councils. Those President's Councils are PA-PTA presidents. The PA-PTA presidents are mandatory members on the school safety meetings that is for every month. We applaud that you reach out to parents, but what happened to President's Councils? I'm gonna take District's 26 line. Where are the ones who are the boots in the ground? We're in the school buildings every day. We're at the school leadership team. We're a mandatory member. We're also at the district leadership team. So shouldn't those who actually are in the building be part of the conversation? You know, we want going forward for this school year that each parent organization group that's a DOE structure, the education councils, president's councils, and our Title I's are part of this conversation. Like you said, it takes all of us to get solutions and give policies, and president's councils should be there at that conversation because we're actually in the building every day. We know what is going on. We are at those school safety meetings. So I just like going forward to ensure that we are including president's councils and Title I PACs and DPACs because they also are in the building as well. So we have more when it comes to individually and districts, we know what's going on in those buildings. We know what the concerns are. We're there every day, just like administration. So I'm saying this for everybody so people don't bring it up because I know people are going to bring this up and they already I've seen it in the chat. So now the floor is open to regarding specifically on safety issues. Anyone has any comments or questions? Just Rashida, you have the floor. Your hands is up.
Thank you. Hey, Mark Ramperstant, Rashida Brown Harris here. Thank you for taking the time to join us. This is about the second or third time you've committed to be here with us, which is very important and it means a lot. We appreciate you. So yes, I just wanted to let you know that we are concerned about the recent changes the DOE has had with the Office of Safety and the Youth Development Department. And we're just hoping that the DOE can commit to transparency and accountability to the parents and the community members around these changes, and specifically for our restorative justice practices we have in place at the Department of Education. Just wanted to say that countless studies on the effectiveness of restorative justice, the experiences of families, school staff, and communities benefiting from the efficacy of these restorative justice practices are crucial to discuss at this time when we talk about safety. And the last 10 years of advocacy by students, parents, educators, and advocacy organizations calling for more restorative justice practices in our schools is because we're concerned that our students, particularly students of color who are facing mental health crisis and unimaginable trauma from this pandemic, will not receive the vital support they need and instead be met by harsh disciplinary practices and policing when they are struggling with behavioral challenges. And so please talk to us about the great work that we're doing at the Department of Education with our restorative justice work, and looking forward to building, strengthening, and expanding this amazing restorative justice work in our schools at this time when we continue to talk about safety. It's needed. And so we'd love to hear what you can share with us about it. And so many families just don't know about it. So we're trying to get them to know more and understand more about the work that we're doing at the DOE.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much, and I appreciate and honor your fierce advocacy on behalf of this amazing project. Restorative Justice is one that has been a tremendous supplement for us in meeting our young people's social emotional needs. And as we start to, as the Department of Education, start to think about the ways by which we can deal with the economic and financial shortfalls, there are conversations about premature conversations about RJ. I have recently I oversaw the office that supported the RJ work. That change, as you know, that change transpired. But good news is it has been reversed and it comes back under my respective purview. So I'm really happy about that. Happy about continuing the work going forward. One of the things that I would like to see and hear more about from our parent involvement is more schools adopting the notion of restorative justice. You would be surprised at how many parents approach us and approach the chancellor and say that RJ really enforces a different implementation of disciplinary sanction for kids, and that the Department of Education has become soft on dealing with tough discipline as opposed to suspensions. We're taking a restorative approach. Well, those are people who really have no real understanding of the effectiveness of restorative justice. Those are people who have not taken the opportunity to work with those schools that have implemented RJ with true fidelity. And those are the conversations that interrupt the great work that is happening in those respective schools, where they've managed to not only reduce incidents, but reduce cases of students being suspended, and especially those cases of recidivism. And as you see from the data, the same kids are being suspended all the time, right? Our students in temporary housing, our students with IEPs, and our Black and brown students, which is, it's unfortunate, but it's in the data. And the RJ really allows for our students to accept responsibility for their behavior, right? Meeting young people where they are. As we shared earlier in our conversation with Rita, young people are coming to our schools with baggage that many of us can't even begin to fathom. And RJ allows a space for them to unleash some of that baggage to adults who really care and nurturing adults who meet them at the door. So I am, there are really premature conversations happening. I am meeting with the chancellor about restorative justice and how we continue to make that a priority for the Department of Education. So I'm going to change your name to Advocate Brown Harris. And I want you to continue to push us on this issue and continue to be that fierce advocate that you've been over the years to ensure that others outside of the DOE understand the true value of restorative justice and push this city and push this administration forward to continue that we expand to every school in our system. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So we have another hand. But before I give you the floor, Tamara, I want to ask there's two questions in the chat that were there first. Communications regarding safety issues. Will these messages be sent in parents' native language?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things that we ensured in the application, the creation of this application, is that the language that is outlined on the blue card and in the ATS is the language that you receive the information in. Absolutely.
Okay, another question before I give the floor to District 20. Who is in charge of hiring school crossing guards and the allocation of the guards to the schools?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Crossing guards are employees of the NYPD. And as it relates to the allocation, those allocations are done by the NYPD in conjunction with DOT. And anytime there's a request for a crossing guard, there's an assessment that is conducted that really talks about traffic patterns and what other mechanisms, electrical mechanisms already exist, like four-way stoplights, speed bumps, and stop signs. And that really makes the determination on whether or not crossing guards are added. One of the things that you need to be clear of is that crossing guards are really assigned to the schools where young people transition on their own. Usually our little guys transition with their parents, right? But they put crossing guards out there because our young people dart out in the streets. But the long way to answer that question is through the NYPD, the application process is now online. The unfortunate part about the crossing guards position is there are not many takers. There are not many takers throughout the city. So what would be super awesome is if parents can help help the NYPD expand the application process and open it up to parents who really want the same days off as their kids get off. They work and they get the summers off, and they work during the course of the day only when kids are transitioning, and the rest of the day belongs to them. So you can be helpful in this respect to help the NYPD bolster up the application process, because I can tell you they have many vacancies throughout the city and they don't have takers for those positions.
Mhm. Thank you, sir. Maybe they should pay them a little bit more, but that's another story. So District 20, Tamara, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, I also want to elevate Rashida's question, because like one of the concerns that I had this year was the mental supports for a lot of our students, because a lot of these safety issues we're having, it has to go back to like what's happening at home, what's happening with their families, what are these students going through, right? Because that's the basis of why some of this stuff is happening, and also what's going on in the community. So I hope added to that list will be guidance counselors, and support services inside, and resources that could be given to parents that are outside the school as well, within the community. And I also want to ask about because we're still going through COVID, and the numbers have been going up, right? So we're leaving summer, we're going into school, right? About the ventilation issues that some of the schools are having. What are we doing to make our schools more safer when it comes to the decrease in the spread of COVID? What are the protocols that are going to be in place for that? And what about monkeypox? What are we doing? Because it's a number of things that are out there now, and that we're all going back into the school, into the classrooms, right? My kids are going masked. I don't care. I'm going into the building masked, right? Because I have immune compromised people at home, and right now my older daughter has COVID. She's still testing positive. We're all isolated, right? It's a big concern. What's going to happen with that?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Ms. Stern. And that was a number of questions. So I'm gonna try to tackle them one by one.
Okay,
And
Mr. Rackers, could you
yeah.
hold on a second? So Celia has her hand. She'll be the last one, and because we still have business, so I just want to put that out there. So Celia will be the last one to ask a question. And sorry, Mr. Rappersett, you have the floor.
Chair, I want to put on the record, since we're recording, that I don't feel like that I got my appropriate time here to share with the people. I feel like my time was cut. No, I want to put my concern on the record, right?
Okay.
Safety is a very important issue. I feel like my time is being cut here, and I want to get an invite to the next meeting. I want to be the first speaker. I don't want to wait for everybody, because this is a very important topic that I need all of your support on. So it's on the record. I said it. Let me move on now.
You're on the record, okay? You'll be the first speaker now. But you know who you need to talk to, who keeps about your time here. So
Yeah.
All right.
No,
All right.
all jokes aside, let me try to answer Ms. Stern's questions. First and foremost, the safety and security of our young people is paramount, right? And when we talk safety and security, we're not only talking about the physical safety, but we're talking about the emotional safety as well. And this administration, as well as prior administration, invested tremendously in the emotional support of our young people, ensuring that every one of our schools has access to mental health supports for our young people by way of a social worker, guidance counselor, or a school-based health clinic with a mental health component, right? And we were intentional about doing that because we knew that our young people were coming back and they were going to be dealing with baggage that, again, many of us don't even want to talk about. And you can see the conditions of our neighborhoods and our streets and what's happening to our young people, in many cases by our young people. And it further adds value to the notion that hurt people hurt people. And we are sure that every one of our schools has a nurturing adult that our young people can go in and talk to about the various issues that they're facing, including contemplating suicide. And we've dealt with that. I can't tell you the numbers of times that we've dealt with that throughout the year. And we were intentional about the screeners, where teachers were screening students to assess their social emotional needs. The work that we did with Harmony, where our young people had access to social emotional supports in that respect. So we hear you loud and clear, and that is another area that continues to be a priority for this administration. So Ms. Stern, continue to push this system to ensure that we're continuing that work with full fidelity. We are not shy about that body of work. Actually, we're proud about the work that we're doing, and I don't think that there will ever be enough guidance counselors and social workers to support our students, but we are continuing to push that fight forward. As it relates to ventilation, I'm not facilities, but I can share with you some of the work that has been done by our facilities folks. Every one of our buildings has been walked. Every one of our buildings has been checked in conjunction with the local unions, the UFT, as well the CSA, to make sure that we had proper ventilation in every one of our buildings. We spent millions and millions of dollars on air purifiers for every one of our classrooms, corridors, and common spaces such as the cafeteria and the auditorium. So I would challenge almost anyone to walk our schools and question whether or not our ventilation is up to speed as it relates to supporting our young people. We had the health department, DOH, MH, and if there is a school out there that is still having challenges regarding ventilation, I would say that you should reach out to Kevin Moran, who has been literally climbing on top of shelves and cabinets and checking ducts and systems, and he worked diligently with the DOHMH Department of Buildings and the unions as mentioned. So please reach out to Kevin Moran if there's any school out there that is not meeting the mark as far as ventilation goes. And he's not shy about visiting any school with anybody at any time. So, and we thank him for his work in that respect. One of the questions asked was about monkeypox. You should stay tuned. As I shared earlier, there is guidance that is going to be shared with all of our schools and our families and students regarding our existing health and safety protocols, as well as and what we're going to do in terms of testing and the new testing regulation, health regulation, as well some updated guidance on monkeypox. We are learning more about this every day. We are always going to follow the guidance of the professionals, and as it was shared with us yesterday, in the next coming days, there will be information giving us clear guidelines as to what to do and overall protocol regarding this newfound pandemic. So thank you for that question, Ms. Stern.
Okay, so before I give the floor to Celia, for all jokes aside, your safety is really very important. Are you willing to do with us, talk about Cpac, a special meeting regarding safety with you?
Absolutely.
And your team? So we'll get together behind the scenes and come up with dates that's feasible, and you'll have us all to yourself.
Well, I feel honored. So thank you for that.
No problem. Celia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Shirley. Good afternoon, Mr. Rampersand. I wanted to ask about town halls. Will there be a series of them? I'm protecting this because I think I remember some conversation a while back. And will they be borough-based, district-based, city-based? What plans have you for town halls that will involve parents as well? And also the BRTs in school. I want to know if any of the requirements have changed for the BRTs, or have they remained the same? Have they been beefed up? Those are my questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Green. I like the hard questions. I especially like the questions when you're using acronyms that are, that equate to the work that's being done in the schools. So as it relates to the BRT itself, and for those of you who don't know, and if you don't know, you should be ashamed of yourselves because you're in schools. Building Response Team that's the BRT acronym. Building Response Team. Every one of our schools is required by state law to have a Building Response Team. One team per building. I don't care how many schools are in the building, one team per building, consisting of members from the various schools, including charter schools, right? There is no them versus us when it comes to safety in our schools. So thank you very much for that question. So there are no changes to the BRT other than we are talking more about the custodian being able to exit the building in the event of an active shooter situation, because the custodian has the keys to the building, the blueprint to the building, and if NYPD and FDNY need to get into the building through another door, the custodian is the person who can allow them access to the building from a different area so that they can do much better than what was done, unfortunately, in Texas. And there is no delay about, neutralizing the bad guy. So that's really the only change. And as it relates to GRP, which is General Response Protocols, those are the actions our schools take in the event of an emergency. So those are the lockdown, the shelter in, and the evacuation. And there's one that we've added recently called Hold. Hold is really the action that allows us to stop the bells from ringing because there's something that happens in the hallway that we don't want the kids to see. For instance, a staff person who has a heart attack, we don't want the kids to see this person receiving, aid, and they're passing through the hallways to go to their next period class, right? Somebody got sick and, threw up in the hallway. We want to give the custodian a chance to clean it. We don't want kids walking through. I'm sorry to be so graphic, but I just want to give you an example of some of the things that we use as it relates to hold. And that's one of the newest GRP actions, General Response Protocol actions. And then last but not least, town hall meetings. Every one of our schools is required to hold a safety committee meeting every month, one of which has to be a town hall meeting. Has to be a town hall meeting. Town hall meeting is the one opportunity where we get to open the doors and allow the community to come in and hear about the amazing things that are happening in our schools, upcoming events, as well as some of the concerns that may plague the community around our schools, giving our merchants, our faith-based organizations, NYPD, and other stakeholders an opportunity to work together to plan on how we address the issues that plague our school communities. And if those town hall meetings are not happening, I am going to provide for us the next time I speak with you all a list of the borough safety directors who are responsible for security and safety in those respective districts. Where you have those concerns, you reach directly to them. Not only the principals required to document every one of those safety meetings, but they also have to document not only the date of the town hall meeting, but the agenda for the town hall meeting as well, as signature sheets for those who attended. And as it relates to a larger town hall meeting, these are the conversations that I'm having with the chancellor now about how we can take the show on the road, hearing from parents directly around sort of what the mayor is doing right now, where he's doing the community town hall meetings around public safety, one that we can have around safety and security in schools, hearing recommendations from parents. We don't proclaim ourselves to have all of the answers. We are transparent around having these conversations and accepting recommendations. We heard for years that parents wanted to lock the front doors of schools, but guess what? We were told that that was not an effective way to run schools in safety, because our schools are safe havens, and you can imagine the number of times kids run back to the school because some adult in a van tried to coach them into getting into a van, or something happened, shots fired, and they ran back to the school. Well, these are the things that we have to consider when we're talking about locking the front doors of schools. But we heard you loud and clear, and that is a real consideration that's being considered for the opening of the school year. So town hall meetings should be happening in schools, ma'am, and I'm hoping that you have an opportunity to attend your school's town hall. And if your schools that you support and service are not having town hall meetings, I need to know bare minimum, and your borough safety directors need to know as well, so they can work with those principals to correct that action.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts.
No problem.
Mr. Represent. So again, I know you were here from like near the beginning. I'm not sure, but we did update PAPTA best practices for school safety. And we also passed another resolution with policy issues, policy recommendations, etc. Today, this is our third one for 2022, but the first one for this school year, and we will make sure you and your team gets the information. And then
please
also help make us better. And if you any past ones, we will forward it to you as well.
Please.
The recommendations. All right.
Please, and thank you
again for coming and always making yourself available to us. And again, like we said, with everything else, it takes the village, right? It takes all of us.
Absolutely.
Entire community, inside and outside of the school. So
yes,
thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you. So Cpac members, real quick, we're gonna go into this information and then we'll be adjourned, right? So we're going to talk about President's Councils and the quarterly meetings that we are supposed to be having with the Education Council. So this is taken from Chancellor's Reg 660 under the roles and responsibilities of the President's Councils. So the first thing is the three key points that was under that was collaboration on quarterly meetings, right? And then we're going to elaborate because that's what we want to focus today on. Then the second, whole candidate forums and consultation on filling vacancies. That's in the regs. And we know we've been holding candidate forums, but I don't think too many of us knew that have the right to participate in the process of filling vacancies on the community and citywide educations. This is also the role and responsibility of President's Council. So I'm going to share the regs right here. And we highlighted some points, but the point we want to talk about more is about the quarterly meetings, because if we're really honest, we're not doing quarterly meetings. Well, the most of us are not doing quarterly meetings like it should. These quarterly meetings are not for updates. Updates could be done on CEC's regular monthly meetings and President's Council monthly meetings. And this is straight from the regs. Section 9, Article 9, Section 3, will call President's Councils and the corresponding CEC will collaborate to establish a mutually agreeable meeting date and time and agenda topics. Collaboration means every party's in hand has collaboration from beginning to end. You're going to choose the meeting time, you're going to choose the topic, how we're going to go about it. Both President's Councils and CECs are planning this together, not one saying this is what we're going to do and you show up. That's not collaboration. Both parent organizations are supposed to work together when it comes to the quarterly meeting. So these quarterly meetings is outside of the monthly meetings. I know, Francis, you have a question, but give me a second. So that is I want to know, we want to hear from you. And I know you have probably questions about that, but that is very important. And then you know what? Please include Title I, right, into it, right? Let's strengthen our partnerships, not only with DOE stakeholders, but with each other, right? Because it takes all of us to get things done. Let's strengthening those partnerships and collaborations among parents, right? To make the parent voice even stronger. And there's plenty of topics that president's councils and education councils can agree on, like just now, safety, right? The budget cuts, transportation, special education, all these, anything that has to do with making it better for our children, this is what needs to happen, right? So these quarterly meetings must happen, should happen. It's in the regs. And it don't have to be quarterly. This is just the minimum that the regs are telling us to do to have these partnerships. Should at least have it quarterly. And again, partnership, collaboration, not one telling the other what we're going to do. And that's not how that works. That's not what collaboration. Again, from A to Z, both parties, and I hope you include Cpacs into this, because I don't think there's not one district that don't have at least one title school in there, so they will have a Cpac. Please include all this into, so we can strengthen and build capacity together, right? For a voice together. It's better. It's better. United we are. And Andy, when you add anything to education councils and our quarterly meetings, is not for to do updates. Updates we do in our monthly.
I think you said it all, Shirley.
All right, so Francis, you had your hands up.
I have a question. Is this something new that they just added, or this was always in the regs? That's
Yeah, this is always in the regs.
So I'm just a little confused because it says president's councils also have the right to participate, which means they don't have to, but if they request, I would have to request to participate. That's my first question. And the second thing is, being that I was always under the impression that CEC members are the only ones who can vote. So if president's council participate, like the whole board, do they get to vote? Or like, how does that work?
Shirley, I could take that if you don't mind.
Yep, please.
So as far as participating, president's councils, because we know the parent leaders and the parents in the community, we can make recommendations to the council on filling vacancies, but only the CEC members do vote. So we don't have a vote in it, but we do have the right to make recommendations. And usually we would be in attendance for the process to happen, and we can speak out about it.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Andrea, you're next.
Yeah, I just, this has not been happening, at least in District 75. I'm gonna be honest. So even though it's been in the regs a long time, this is new knowledge to me, but I will make sure I get on top of it from now on. That's definite.
Thank you, Andrea. And like I said, as a majority of us on doing it, if we are doing it, we're doing it as updates, and that's not what the quarterly meetings are for. Veronica?
Thank you. You know, what you're saying, I know that is in the regs, whatever. However, like Andrea just said, you know, it's not happening. And then sometimes when you approach it, the pushback that you get. So, and another thing that I think we should revisit, I mean, President Council is the one who select the CEC, but we are not able to vote to see who we put as our president or that executive board. So it's like our voice is just halfway and then it doesn't matter anymore. And I know we should be having a quarterly meeting, but you know, in District 17, I'll be honest, it's a pushback, and sometimes it's act like if you are a third grader, oh, I forgot. And so, I mean, maybe a meeting should be held with everyone at the same forum, and so they understand clearly you know, the requirements, and maybe that might help us to move forward, you know, better. Thank you.
Veronica, and I appreciate that, and that is true. I would like to clearly say, education councils approaches Cpac to make sure we're all on the same page. They are supposed to be talking to their membership, and Cpac is talking to ours to make it clear this is what the quarterly meeting. So we are behind the scenes on strengthening those partnerships and collaborations. So yes, if it is feasible, or we can all be in one big meeting, we can do that too. I will ask membership, what is the best way you feel? Or I want to ask membership also to reach out to their education councils, right? Let's have a conversation. Let's start locally first before we make it bigger, and then come back with feedback to us. And it doesn't have to be on this platform with the feedback. Email us. We can schedule a special meeting regarding that. But this is very important because, like I said, we have I can't think of the word now. Advocated strongly. Together is better. United. So right now, especially some of the things that are going on, and we need to get things done. We need to get it done together. And there are big topics that we can pull all of us together to talk about and advocate for. Leonard, you have your hands up.
Yeah, this it is the lawyer in me. You know, this language, looking at section that you have highlighted, A660 Article 1, Section 3, little a. You know, we have liaisons in our district. So each of us, each community, I'm on the Community Education Council. Each Community Education Council member is assigned to a number of schools where we meet with the Parents Association. But this specifically doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. It says required to meet with the PTA officers in their respective districts. It doesn't say meetings with the President's Council. So I think the way it's written, to me, it looks a little vague. I was just wondering if anyone had any thoughts on that, because
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but presidents' councils or PTA presidents, right? Officers in their districts. So that's why if you sum them up, it's president's council. That's what president's council is made up the officers of the PTAs.
No, I get it. It's just the way it's written. It's a little.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of sections, but But you know, because then they go, the president's councils and the corresponding CECs will collaborate. So, you know, Leonard, I could give the suggestion that, you know, there's a lot of sections of the chancellor's regulations that, you know, as a lawyer, you know, it tends to be.
Yeah, no, they just should have said required to meet.
Yeah.
To meet with the President's Council, not just PTA.
No,
officers.
you're absolutely right.
Does that mean just the officers of the President's Council? I mean, it's confusing to me. It's just not.
Yeah, we could have this conversation offhand.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or, you know, as you know, but in general, this is what we're supposed to be having quarterly meetings, right? Gladys.
Thank you. So my question is regarding what if there's hostility, whether it be between CEC members towards president council members, and even though the executives want to go ahead and work together and have been working together, but there's certain members that just make it very uncomfortable for collaboration to happen.
So this is where we bring in the district, right? District or our FLCs. This is where we to help mediate, because the FLC, especially now that we're going into the new school year, they are supporting both president's councils and the education councils, right? That we'll be in spaces where there are difficult people, but we hope that as leaders, as parent leaders, as adults, that we can resolve it. They're always going to be that, but you can get support else, you know, from the district, also from fellow parent leaders. I hope that was helpful. And, you know, Cpac is here to support president's councils. That's why we exist. So we are here to support each other. And then in turn, we are supporting our PTAs. Any other further, I'm sorry, is there any comments in the chat? Because I can't look at it while I have the screen share. In regards to that, then we will move on.
Yes, just a question about if these are public meetings or their executive board meetings, which I answered in the chat that these would be public meetings. And the CECs are liaisons to SLTs and not PTAs. And that's why we have President's Council. That's the only comment in the chat regarding this.
Do you have anything to add to this before I move to the next?
No, you.
All right. So Cpac normally have their elections in October. We're gonna need our membership to step up for those who don't plan to run, to help do elections for the month of October. For the month of September or before September, we're gonna send out a form for those who would like to help be part of the election team. Again, if you would like to, don't wait for the form. You can always email us for the election team, but we would like to, hope everybody, there's a lot of people to step up and help us out. And we know how difficult it is to get our own school or our own president's councils to run elections. Let's be a model example to our constituents. Summarizing walkthroughs, we touched through this feedback survey. At this time, could everybody put not just the negative, but some positive feedback about summarizing? And our walkthroughs are happening. We want feedback of how this summer is going. Summarizing is coming to a close. And there's a survey that was sent out, right? I'm gonna let Randy talk more about that.
Okay, so the DOE would like to hear about families' experiences with the summarizing program. They actually want to know what's working well, what needs to work better, and how our children are experiencing the program. So an email was sent with a survey to families on August 10th, and the deadline to complete the survey is Wednesday, August 17th. They do say that if you have multiple children, to submit a survey for each child, and the information that you share will improve the program for next summer. So just in case you didn't receive the link, I will add it in the chat.
Awesome, Randy. And all right, and so that's it for, I'm gonna stop sharing. That is it. We've covered everything that we would like to have covered. Miss Veronica, you have your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I'm just want to ask Randy a question. I mean, for someone who don't have a child that attend the summarizing, but a community, a person who lives in different, live in the community, but have different people in, because like I mentioned earlier, I visit a lot of summarizing thing. And so the stuff that I hear or the treatment some of the kids got, we are eligible to fill that survey, knowing that we don't have a child attend that school or the summarizing program.
It was sent specifically, it was emailed to parents of children that have children in the program. So I would strongly encourage parents, like I put the link in the chat, you can share that with your PTAs, the PAs in your district, and ask them to share it with their school communities. So I'm not sure if parents that don't have a child, you can look at the survey and see if it allows you to fill it out.
Okay, thank you so much, Randy.
You're welcome, Veronica.
So any final thoughts, questions before we ask someone to make a motion to adjourn? I just want to appreciate that everyone taking time out and showing up for our August meeting. And I hope your summers are going well, and I hope your summer continue to do very well. Rashida.
I apologize if I missed it in my email or any of the notices that you all share. You do a great job of sharing things out. I just happen to sometimes just get lost in my email inbox. What's the status of our live stream coordinator?
Oh, the announcement was made in June or May. Our live stream coordinator is Charlene Dawson. She's on vacation this month, so September will be the first one. Thank you. I was waiting to see if somebody was going to ask that question.
I was getting the text on the side like the chat is disabled.
I was waiting for that. And so yes, the live stream coordinator will be starting in September. Thank you, Rashida. Any other thing? Okay, so I can't do it myself. So can I have someone to make a motion?
Motion. District 8.
17. All right,
Second.
Angela and Veronica, thank you so much, ladies. Our meeting is adjourned. The time is 12:42, and thank you for staying on. Enjoy your summer and continue smiling.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
You do the
Be
same.
safe.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.